Dear Lord, we're back. We're back. It's Mythic Week. That means that me and Matt we've been in the gym. We've been preparing, doing everything we can to finally take down Liquid.
I've just been doing time walking dungeons in Black Temple today, so I don't know what you're talking about. Mythic Plus? No, thank you. That's for sweatlords, not for real gamers like me, who get from level 60 to 63 in one dungeon and then go, that was good, then log out again.
Never mind. We failed before we started. Hello. Welcome to the stream. There are things to talk to. No, things to talk about.
If you're talking to things, I'm a person, not a thing. Thank you. Even though I often, I often come across as a thing. Subford. Maybe, All right. That was a sound and a half.
Big Rev. Yeah. Don't know if you guys heard that.
They did.
Okay.
They did.
So, things to talk about. That's really distracting. Come on! Be gone! Okay.
Yeah, see, that was it. The Gyodon said push it to the limit, and then that person's like, let's go, let's push it to the limit. We can do this. Matt needs to move, he's not a bot. You'd be surprised. He's just NPC. How dare you? How dare you?
We just wheel him from his time running station over there. I'm just in here to the stream room, and then he gets wheeled back to do more time walking dungeons.
This isn't a technical issue. This is a physical issue. This setup is so good. Every time, so good. Just whoops.
Yes, these really do the job. But the problem is, so if you have a thing that's made of plastic that's threaded, that's going to be going on to a metal thing that's threaded, one of them will last longer than the other.
I'm very sorry for all the sounds that came out of that. It should be sorted now. Excellent.
Good. And in terms of things to talk about, well, finally, Delves have settled in. Maybe. Maybe.
Delves have settled in.
Bran hasn't.
I think Delves have settled into maybe not where they're going to end up, but where they should have maybe been. And then where they're going to move them next will be the next step after a week or two. They're likely going to shift them again based on data. Because as it stands, they are in a very strange place. And no one's happy with them, which actually does remind me of what the other game that no one was happy with until they bent over backwards. Helldivers. So we'll maybe draw a comparison there when we talk about it, but that's it. That and story mode as well. It all kind of it all feeds into one singular narrative. So it does. Gamers bad. Gamers want press W, win games.
Well, we do love to spin a narrative when we can.
Do you?
Very fun. Right. The first thing was like buffs, nerfs, everything that happened. It kind of settled in by Monday from the time our video went out. I think as I was doing the video, they did another nerf to the amount of health that some elites had. As it stands now, with my paladin at like, well, I think 593 now, but back when it was 590 or 585, tier 8s were fairly doable. I mean, you could they were fairly doable, but you could absolutely die. And the Night Lads. The Night Lads from Hallowfall. I've forgotten their name again.
The Order of Night.
Yes, the Order of Night. I found the Order of Night guys to like just hit oddly hard. But yeah, basically very doable. And it's been weird because there's been a whole I hate the word discourse. I hate the word discourse, but I think I have to use it. There's been a whole discourse about what the hell a delve should be online. And it's a bit weird because to those of us who, I mean, as an example, did the first half of the raid on heroic, but found that our delve great vault was better than our heroic raid vault. Yeah. You look at the delves and you think, oh man, that's crazy. These take like 12, 13 minutes to solo. At under normal mode gear, and I get that in my vault. Holy shit!
It's clearly not right. Like,
so that's the thing. In terms of like effort to gear, it's super, super, super powerful. But in a way, the people who it's aimed at, well, you know the way if you give gear to somebody who gets 90 percentile parses.
Yes.
But then you give gear to maybe it's kind of weird because I don't want to be weirdly judgmental. It's like, imagine you don't even do raid in the first place. So if you were to go raid, you'd probably get like a 20th percentile parse because you're new at it and you're still learning. For that strata of player, you give them the same gear, they'll have way less output. To us, that's still really powerful, desirable gear. And whenever we, like, somebody who gets a 20th percentile parse at eye level 580 versus a 90th percentile parse at eye level 580. There's very different amounts of damage.
Yeah, that's where like I've talked this ad nauseum. Like,
yeah, like this is maybe the part of the discussion that isn't getting talked about as much.
No, because I think everyone only really talks about it in terms of like their own perspective and stuff. And that's where the issue comes in, because someone turns around and goes, okay, well, everyone is, this is really too hard for me. This is too easy, this is hard, this is too hard. But they haven't been like, it's hard to look at it holistically with the every player in mind.
Yeah.
Because every player, this is something we've talked about quite a lot, where in World of Warcraft, the gap between, like the gulf, I should say, between player output and ability is just unbelievable. Like, it is truly unbelievable.
Even within the context of our raid group, if you ask us, we're like awful. Not awful, not awful, but like we are constantly taking the piss out of ourselves and each other. Whenever we're progressing on heroic, like every second kill is a by the seat of your pants. In no way did you deserve that. But when we look at our like group execution rank, it ends up being like 90s.
Yeah.
All the time. And that's weird because subjectively we're only feeling our fuck ups. And I guess it's that we take so much for granted.
It's also a little bit of Dunning-Kruger in it, right? Because if I'm sure people are familiar with Dunning-Kruger, but the idea is that...
yeah, the internet knows about that one.
Yeah, it's the idea that like the unknown unknowns to you in terms of a skill or something are very, very like big. So you get this sense of when you understand, say, a 10% of something, but you don't see the 90% you don't understand, then you think you're great and you think you're doing well. You think you're excellent. But then you break that 10% and now you know 15%, you're 15% of the way there. But now you see the other 85 and you go, oh my God, compared, like it's truly a matter of comparison. Compared to what I now understand, it's insane. It's I'd say singing's a good example, right?
Oh.
Where, like, what is singing, right? It's, you just make some noise with your mouth, right?
That's it.
But the more you kind of understand that, the more you realize how much effort it takes for someone to sound as good as a good singer does. And you're just like, how is that even like vaguely possible? But then you see a child going and like warbling away and they think they sound great. And you're like, yeah, they probably do sound okay, but not compared to someone who's like actually trained. And you go, holy shit.
It's just to say we're Pavarotti.
Yeah.
Yes, good, sure, undoubtedly. It's weird. It's weird with Dunning-Kruger. Is in a way, it's like, yeah, you get more knowledge and then you feel more stupid. Then you stop beating yourself up and then you get excited by sort of new mysteries, assuming it's something you actually care about. And for lots of people in WoW raids, when they look at their bar, they're like, oh, is my bar bigger than his bar? Then, that competition kind of like fuels the whole thing. So it's hard for us to not know because we haven't played the game only recently, or we haven't been in the context of like our intro to WoW was playing Mythic Plus. I think my first raid was during TBC. Started raiding properly in Wrath. That's just a skill that's there, like riding a bike or whatever. Even if I play like shit, I'm still going to be able to like know mechanics, do things. So what's my eye level 580 maximum potential versus somebody who just started playing the game last expansion and has, if I've been playing World of Warcraft for half of my life.
Yeah, that's not a good. That's that's something to realize. So it is.
Yeah. The franchise is the same age as me. You're 1 year older than the franchise, though.
Yeah.
So WoW's just a young punk.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember learning about Warcraft 3 when I was in first year of high school. Like, that was brutal. So I actually think to get to an interesting part of like where Blizzard's intention was with this, then I think we have to say what Bobson said, which is the whole point is getting to 8, not starting with 8. But that's where the problem was in. Because for people who want to do, who are, maybe not great at the game, or maybe not Mythic Plus people, who maybe not readers, then delves are ostensibly for them, right? Delves are ostensibly for, as Holly herself would call them, like the casual player, right? The one who goes, okay, well, it's for these people who have like a little bit of a right to go up. But the struggle there is that they also need to make them part of the overall system, or at least they felt they did, in order to make them viable and work and be a good box feature, which means plugging them into the Great Vault, plugging them in the gear progression, because you can't have progression in WoW without gear progression, because just skill progression isn't for everyone. Just skill progression is for a very niche level of player. And I think that's not just World of Warcraft. That's broadly applicable to games, right?
It's because think about Vampire Survivors, where it moves all of that like knowledge and skill, not all of it, but a lot of it to knowledge and progress over just like pure execution.
Yeah.
There's different forms that are taking on, or they're catching on with more modern games that are different to some of the traditional games. I mean, at worst, it's AFK Arena, but...
Yeah, things like that. But that becomes interesting because they plug it into the system, and suddenly it's strong enough in the system that it needed to feel right. Because if it wasn't as strong as M+, or it wasn't as strong as, raids, then because we're all in the same pool,
yeah,
then we would have to. They have to match, because otherwise people would just go, well, there's no point me doing the thing that was made for me. Because I live in this system of I need to have this gear, I'll have to go into M+, I'll have to go into raids, that's where I'm supposed to go. That's where all of the common knowledge around the game will go, because we don't have a language that works super, super well for turning around and going, well, this game mode, this knowledge, this way of playing, this way of thinking isn't for you, World of Warcraft player A.
They understand it if it's PvP.
Yeah, that's the only place they understand it. Is it, are you a PvPer or not? And that's basically it. That's the line.
It's like getting asked, a question at a club or something.
Yeah, there's actually something there with crafting now as well, where people quite understand clearly if you're a crafter or not. Do you engage the system, or do you just buy stuff and whisper people, hopefully not get charged too much commission? That's kind of the other element here. But Blizzard doesn't have a language for that we share. We don't have a language for it because we all think we're in the same PvE pool, which means it's really, really difficult for them to do that. And it comes down to what you suggest. Like, I don't think I'm a great player, but also I really enjoyed doing Mage Towers. They weren't a problem. I fought Zekfir on tier 2, and I was like, this is the most fun I've had playing WoW in ages. This fight is impossible except for like this little like narrow through line of me doing it that I can just about see and no more. And that's what really excited me. And I was like, okay, well, this is great. So I keep thinking I'm like maybe not a great player, right? But that's because I'm past the Dunning-Kruger pit. And I can see, well, I'm not playing for Echo. I'm not playing for Liquid.
Therefore, you're shit, objectively.
Therefore, I'm dog shit.
Awful. Bottom of the pit.
Yeah. And it ends up being I'm probably in the top 25 percentile of World of Warcraft players, if not 20 percentile, if not higher than that.
The thing is, like, if you're in raids getting 50 raid parses, that's not 50% of the population. That's 50% of the population who have opted into doing heroics.
Yeah.
And that's going to be way higher than 50th percentile of the overall endgame population.
Yeah.
So there's even that. And I guess that like reinforces, if you get like a green parse of 45 and you think, that's it, off the bridge I go. Yeah, that's only don't. But that's only in the context of like raid compared to everybody else playing the game. Yeah. You're different. And then it's weird because that's the perspective that we have got of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we apply that to everyone else. It colors the whole discussion. And then when we think about a tier 8 versus somebody else thinking about a tier 8 who doesn't do raids at all, then it's just so easy to talk past each other.
Yeah.
And then you get Wowhead comments.
Oh, of course, yes.
They have a great comment section. In fairness, we're on YouTube. We can't talk.
That's true. Our comment section is very human recently. Very human.
Yes, I love all of our passionate humans in the comment section.
Oh, dear me. I would make a joke, but you can't even make a joke. People take it too seriously. I was going to say we should stop paying for those comments then, but but that's not how it works.
Who are we? Insert streamer drama here.
Oh yes, of course. Oh yeah,
I know that there is a
Yeah.
streamer drama. The problem is I've forgotten who it was about, but that's good because it means I can make the generic safe version of the joke. Great.
There was a view botting recently. I don't know who it was.
Insert whatever streamer you don't like.
That's all of them by design. Anyway, I will say before I just I caught my ex. I looked at Warcraft logs. Our Bloodbound horror execution ranking was 89 on our kill, obviously. 11th percentile, the best in the world. Our speed was 54.
Never feels 89.
It never does it? It doesn't. It really doesn't. Yeah. So I think the example I wanted to use was in the Dell video. As like we said, it was possible to do the tier 8 as a Pumpkin at 5, 6, 7. And that's
No
still,
asterisks required.
Yeah, and that's
Happy
like
days.
that is entirely possible.
Yeah.
I believe that you can completely do that. However, it did require knowledge of the game. It did require things like CCing mobs. It did require like using
What's
entangled
that?
routes.
An email.
Yeah, it did require using entangled
Jargon.
routes on melee mobs.
Even jargon, like how many players don't know what that is? So even when a YouTube video says like, "Oh, CC mobs," they're like, "Oh, I know that's like to those of us who are, us here, you watching, probably sounds insane. It would be scary and interesting to see Blizzard's telemetry.
Yeah,
Give us the numbers, Holly.
Bran's healing being that strong feels like a bug, right? Because if you don't know, Bran was changed, right? Bran was changed. Initially, he was bugged in that he was under certain situations, which I think was actually in most cases I found, like playing anyway, he was inheriting the modifiers from the Delves, which is what Zakvir 2 was. What made Zakvir tier 2 question marks possible.
Do you think that had any impact on your success rate?
I think it did because Bran did 74% of my damage in that pull.
I love
that. And which was obviously that was 74% of Zakvir's health pull. So that was like literally.
But you provided 100% of the skill, to be clear.
Yeah, Bran just farted about and shot arrows. Like he was the typical hunter. He did nothing right.
Blizzard don't need to fix the bugs. They just need to say canonically Bran's a hunter.
Oh,
there
he
you
is.
go.
He 100% is.
All intended.
Definitely is. But like they fixed that. 'Cause I knew it was bugged, right? Was this not found in the beta? Nothing was found in the beta because no one played Delves to that extent, realistically, and there wasn't that much data to look at comparatively. Because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of Delves versus a couple hundred, realistically. And also, the one of the other things that's interesting about beta versus live testing is beta testing isn't that important, right? Or like changing things in beta testing was not important. Also, Zakfir wasn't in the beta as well. That's also a good point. They hid that, which worked out really well. But this bug was also in other delves, so you could have found that out. It's just it was only in Zakfir. It was truly anomalous in a way that you super immediately noticed. Otherwise, it felt like it was within boundaries of what was expected. But I think one of the things to notice about the difference in beta testing and live testing is whenever you're getting your feedback on beta, you're getting your tests, you're getting all the things done, you look at it and you're like, okay, well, we're working this. This is just us working. We're just working ahead on future content. It's fine. Whenever the thing goes live and then is broken, you then have your like leaders and superiors and managers going, this is now a problem. This was a potential fire that has turned into a fire. People don't care about potential fires. People care about actual fires. And that's what you go, okay, well, what are you working on? I'm working on this. And at the bottom of the pile is all the beta, like bug testing and super like in-depth data review. But then it catches fire. Suddenly it's at the top of your list and you're standing there with fire extinguisher crying, going, please help me. So yeah, more or less. I think that's why that wasn't caught specifically.
Well, look, don't worry. I am sure they will integrate AI into Azure DevOps. And the Blizzard team will fix all of their problems.
I'm sure. Wonderful. Definitely. But I think Dells are wild, man. Dells are wild. I don't know what they'll do with them in the future. I have a funny feeling they will continue to nerf them a little bit. Which
I hope they hold out. I have a feeling.
I don't.
I have a feeling
I don't care anymore.
I think a few weeks will change it.
I
Or
don't care
even
anymore.
1 week of gear will change it, because for the people who probably, for the people for whom the higher end Delve gear is like worthwhile, another week of like the 2 veteran bits of gear, maybe a bit of crafted, then the Delve stuff. That's enough that they should feel naturally more okay doing a tier 8.
So it kind of depends. It kind of depends on what they're dying to. Because this is the frustrating thing. One of the things, and it's Blizzard's design that they like, their idea of game design for solo stuff isn't designed with the bottom rung of players in mind. They're designed by people who like make stuff for the more actual like gameplay oriented player, which is really awkward. You can tell that there's a lot of cases where they've relented recently because damage hasn't been absolutely massive, right? That's a good example, actually. Webbolt. Webbolt needs a nerf. Webbolt has been nerfed into the ground, but the problem with Webbolt is don't get hit by Webbolt. It's an interruptible cast. The mobs are always CCable. It is entirely on you if you're hit by Webbolt. If you're being hit by Webbolt from too many sources, you're overpulling. You should be using CC. You should be pulling more carefully. These are all things you can solve. And if you can't do that with Bran as a DPS, you can bring Bran as a healer, and then just after every Webbolt or every 2 Webbolts, step into a health potion. There are all ways around this, but that's kind of the thing where you have a lot of you have them going for, okay, well, that stuff does high damage. Like the Webbolts hitting hard was probably their design of going, well, don't get hit by it, forehead. You can solve that. Then there was what an unhinged comment, not all classes have access to loads of stuns.
You, sir, are off the hinge.
So not all classes have access to all stuns. Fine. Wonderful. Most classes have access to interrupts. Most classes have access to some form of CC that's long form. Not necessarily a stun, but things like roots, things like that. Or otherwise, they have access to a lot of self-healing and barriers and things like that. I am really tempted to, for the sake of showing it's fucking possible, I'm tempted to see how low an item level I can clear tier 8s on every spec.
Do you know what that makes me think
just
of?
to do it. Same with Zekfir. One of the things I was thinking about Zekfir was, now that I can do Zekfir 1 with my fucking eyes closed on Holy DK, what if I just do it on other specs? Just to go, well, here's how you do it. Here's how it's possible.
That reminds me of a thing. Sparkogs. This is a deep cut to the past. I don't think Sparkogs plays the game anymore. It was a warlock played for Method or Paragon, maybe, but one of the great warlocks. And this is when Greenfire came out. Greenfire involved a boss fight at the end. And there was a lot of talk about this boss fight because
I wish I could do that in its live form. Wait, Miss Classic, Mob Classic.
There you go.
That'll be my time.
So with this boss fight, it was all based around the mechanics of warlocks. You had to use your warlock mechanics. If you did, totally killable, right?
All of them, it was all of them.
Yeah. So it was designed to basically be this mark of like, I am a warlock.
It was the proto mage tar, really. It was the proto mage tar.
I hate brain rot. I'm thinking as Dr. Han, I am a warlock. Please no. Please. Oh, the good doctor, get out of my head.
I am a warlock.
What a comfortable and hinged show. The point though, Sparkogs did it naked. I don't know what he was wearing himself, but his character was naked.
Oh yes.
So to make the point, no, this is doable. You just have to know the mechanics. And that's just where things get real interesting. You mentioned Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is a good example of that. So I cannot believe that the name has escaped my head. It's one of the older game design principles. A great example of it is the game Doom. Not talking about 2016, talking about original. You know the way in Doom, every enemy is different and has an extremely clear niche. And then that means that different numbers and different combinations of enemies create different gameplay experiences. That then combined with the weapons and moveset of Doom equal a really, really fun FPS in the 90s, which was great. I can't believe I've forgotten the name of that flippin' design principle. But anyway, a lot of game designers will see like, okay, we're going to make some problems for our player. We're going to give them some tools. A great example is Helldivers 2 with like armor pen weapons. If you're dealing with like a charger and you don't have an armor pen weapon, oh dear, you're in a hell of a lot of trouble. The game design challenge there is use the right tool for the job. As a team, coordinate your tools together. Then you'll succeed as a group. Now, for players, sometimes they're like, yeah, but I like the flamethrower. Or I like whatever. And
Why can't I kill the armored thing with the flamethrower?
Yeah, and the way they've changed it with Helldivers in light of the new updates is you can kill the armored thing with a flamethrower. It's still better to kill it with the proper tool. But what they've done is they've eased up a little on how prescriptive the design requirements are. And where it gets interesting with World of Warcraft is that, as you know, the way as if you have numbers that started as a different baseline, but then you scale them, the scaling will magnify their differences. And then that means that numbers that are okay at a certain level, say Mythic plus 10, or Mythic plus whatever, those then end up being goofy, wacky, insane, unhinged, very hard, or broken, or just feels like a different design at a higher level. If you then change your character toolkits based on that higher level, well, now at the middle level, you've kind of just had a knock-on effect on everybody. And it gets down to how, like, I had that example of, you know, me as an eye level 580 who's played the game, that's a low item level, but has played the game for like 15 years. Again, I'm not great at the game, or, you know, any crazy raid person. I do heroic ahead of the curve, and then I'm happy. I want to be a sweat lord again. I used to be a sweat lord in my youth.
It's very hard to be. It's harder than I think almost ever to be a sweat lord in WoW.
Dear God.
Some of it down to execution requirements, like increasing over time, but some of it is also down to the amount of effort and knowledge you have to actually put into like playing the game properly, and gearing is kind of nuts. And
so that gets to the point. My 580 will be better than a new player's 580. As in, we're sitting there doing the same rotation, but I'll do it better because I have muscle memory developed over half a lifetime. And so on and so forth. Or, you know, as a hunter, I'm used to firing off a trap, doing a disengage, hitting something else in a decently quick order. So you've got that for how much damage I'm able to do with the same amount of gear. But that also applies for toolkit. And I think what you just said there is a perfect example of that. So for you, in a class you're experienced with, where you have used the keybinding tool that we developed.
Of course, yes. Beat that dead horse.
You used our lovely keybinding spreadsheet. You're going to be able to squeeze so much more juice out of the same thing.
And not just damage either.
Yeah, definitely not damage. And that's actually where it matters. And that's why the Helldivers thing kind of matters, because in Helldivers, it was almost in cases less about the base damage. It was about like, this is of type armored, and this is not good against that. Guess I'll die then.
Yeah, bad type matchups, which also, like, that actually rolls around to Overwatch 2 as well, where Overwatch had the exact same problem, where it's like, okay, well, people like their characters, but the game was explicitly designed as a, like, hero counter swappy thing. And that was, like, the intent of the game was you constantly rotate who you're playing so that you get against that, like, you don't come up against that problem. But now you're running into the problem where people have mains. And I don't know if Overwatch 2 is necessarily has the execution ceiling, has enough of an execution ceiling to warrant having full mains. Probably does now in a couple of ways as a shooter. Probably. But then people go, well, I like to play my character, so why does my character instantly lose to this character? And then you go, well, that's the different from the game we were making.
And then player says, well, seethe and cope game developer, because you made the game you made, you have the audience you have, and this is what we actually enjoy when we log in. The problem, though, is fixing the first order problem of the player choice then creates loads of like ripple second order effects throughout the rest of the design. Yeah. So I think once again we came to the shocking conclusion that designing games for a broad audience is really hard.
Yeah, like because Doom Eternal's a good one as well.
Doom Eternal's is a perfect example.
My favorite comparison of all time is two very different games that you'll understand the similarities when I talk about them. DMC, The Devil May Cry, right? the Ninja
Oh,
Theory,
no.
the Ninja Theory DMC that had young asshole Dante that some people liked, but most people thought was horrendous for a good reason. That really kind of completely didn't understand what Dante or DMC was about whatsoever. Made it anyway. It's something entirely new to the Devil May Cry series, which was colored weapons. You had blue weapons that were angelly weapons, and you had red weapons that were devilly weapons, and there would just be colored shields on enemies. So it was just okay. And the way you swapped these was you held one of the triggers when you were attacking. So it was as simple as blue shield, use the angel scythe. Red shield, use the demon axe. Okay, sure, that's annoying. That's really annoying.
How about no?
Because of a variety of reasons, including that it's DMC, where the point of those games is not to have a combat challenge. The point, well, I mean, there's obviously some of that to DMC. It is a hard game and hard difficulties, but the ultimate goal of the game is like combos and freedom and being able to do, that was trying to force you into using different moves to build up a different combo set, but also locked you out of other ones.
Yeah.
So if you were really enjoying a specific thing you did with the Demon Axe, then sorry, you have to break the shield first. Sorry, you're just fucked. Doom Eternal had a different vision where it wasn't, you're allowed to have freedom in whatever you want to do. You want what you use, the weapon you want to use. It didn't go for the hardcore, you're not allowed to use this, but it very, very, very much ran you out of ammo, made you cycle between your weapons, gave obvious weaknesses to loads of enemies, so that you were going 5 times as fast if you were swapping weapons properly. And people didn't like this, because people liked using the super shotgun or Doom to kill everything.
Yeah.
So Doom Eternal was a really, really like a split down the middle of players who went, oh, you've made this really intense, like, rhythmic character action game. I super dig it. Me. And then other people who were like, no, I respect it. Well, yeah, like, I like the Doom. I like the Doom. This isn't Doom. This is a different vision for Doom that is a different thing. Which is a little bit of an aside from Delves, but it all fundamentally kind of comes to the same problem of trying to design something for everyone to enjoy when you are constantly, by the force of gravity of player feedback, pulled down to the, like, I don't want to say common denominator in like a disrespectful sense, but a lot of people who play a game want to
common trends of modern game.
They want to pick the thing they like and do the thing they like and have a good time.
Yeah,
they want minimal track. They want, if there's any friction, it needs to be a very careful amount of friction.
Diablo.
That's exactly the friction they want. Yeah.
Diablo. People they want loot. They enjoy the buildcraft. In many cases, they will be using knowledge from external sites to facilitate their build and know what to target. The execution challenge is nothing. I mean, there is an execution challenge. Yes, absolutely. But there are games with far harder execution challenges. Now, if you're used to, you buy a game, you get to end game, you acquire more power, you're used to the sort of Diablo model, or I don't know, Lost Ark or whatever, and then you go into a delve, it's going to be fairly different, even just in terms of the number of raw abilities you've got compared to, say, a Diablo character.
Yeah, because delves do ask you to use things that raids and Mythic Plus don't actually ask you to do, which is all of your CC interrupts.
Yeah, which, I mean,
defensives.
I'm not shilling, but lots of people actually won't have those on a good keybind.
Yeah.
Because they won't need them.
Because the game doesn't ask you for them in leveling ever.
Yeah, or LFR.
Or raids, honestly. Normal raid, you can get away with it. And I think I've talked
a bunch of Mythic Plus even.
Yeah, I've talked about this before in World of Warcraft. An awful lot of people's strategy to play World of Warcraft and to find success in World of Warcraft isn't to get better, it's to try again. And those are, you might go, what's the difference? Surely you try again and you're a little bit better this time, you try a little bit more this time. You try something different. No, a lot of World of Warcraft players, and I feel like I have authority to say this, I've seen a lot of these groups over the years, because I have
authority.
I have pugged a lot. People just try again and expect some different variable to be different.
Yes, determination.
Yeah.
5% more health and damage every time you die.
Imagine determination, but it's actually in who you're with. There are people who always want to be very gently carried. Sometimes it's a hard carry. Sometimes it's they did fine damage, but they didn't interrupt anything. And then they kind of go, well, my damage is fine, so I'm doing okay. And that's what kind of gets hammered into people over time.
Metrics that make a run smoother are not tracked. I mean, yes, you can move like details to show interrupts and stuff, and that'll matter if you're doing like Mythic Plus with a team who are taking things seriously. But for so much of WoW, none of that's tracked. Nobody thinks about it. So DPS ends up being the measure. The more you've got, the more you'll succeed, the harder content you can do. And in many cases, if you die, it was a wipe.
Healer issue.
It was a wipe. It was a healer issue. It was a bad tank. It was whatever.
I've seen people talk about that. I was looking up like how people were responding to like delves and things, and even a little bit today. Threat management is such a thing in the past that in Black Temple Time Walking, there were people screaming about the tanks not doing their job whenever they would go full burst on a mob with BT skilling and just get shot.
We're having Omen installed.
Yeah,
Was
Omen.
Omen, Omen was imagine details, but it was threat numbers for whatever mob you're currently targeting.
Yeah,
and that was the thing. You might actually, in some cases, have to hold DPS in order to not steal threat from the tank.
Yeah, stuff like that. But for Dell specifically, there was like people or some report of a healer going in and the healer being like bullied and blamed for being bad at the game when people were standing in unavoidable attacks. And I'm like, yeah, there's an awful lot of people who will get hit by things like anything Zakfir does basically. But the stuff like there's the Vine Spear, there's the Spore Explosions, there's the charges. The skittering charges is very interesting. The skitter chart on, what are they called? The skittering bios, some of the spider mobs that just charge directly at you. Unlike the mobs in, what are they called? I can't remember the name, but in the Stone Vault, you know the mobs, the big blue arrow, the point where they're charging?
Yeah.
These ones don't have that. It's just a facing and charge. And before the changes, they would have killed you. They don't quite kill you 100-0 anymore. But before they would have. And people are just getting hit by these. And you're like, yeah, the point is to pay attention to the world.
To move out of the extremely obvious telegraphed thing in the video game you're playing.
Yeah.
If your brain is thinking about how it's going to move your hand in order to click a button to do your rotation, you're not going to stand out of the thing.
Yeah.
Because your brain's doing this.
Yeah. Or if you're not even paying attention. Like if you're literally looking in the wrong place. Like there is the whole like how many things can you actively pay attention to? And World of Warcraft pushes that.
It does,
really
absolutely.
Does. Like I think I am relatively intelligent and like fairly tuned in, and I try to pay attention to a lot of things. I think I have a good capacity for it. And then sometimes I will be in a raid and I'll just catch some. I'll just like not taunt during a tank swap because I was looking at something else entirely, and I'll go, oh fuck. My brain was spinning plates and I dropped one thing. I just dropped one of the plates, and that's just what happens. And World of Warcraft is a game about spinning those plates more than there's anything else. I think like WoW's a decent enough game with actually with explicitly being that, but FF14 is the most explicitly that in game design, in how they design encounters, because they will put the most challenging mechanics on 2-minute markers, so they know you're thinking about your burst, you dickhead. You're trying to fit all your like your literally perfect rotation into that like 15-second window, which means you're going to be a little bit more taxed. So you're going to find watching where this sword's coming from a little bit harder to do. So you're going to hit this time. And they like that's the most intentional thing I've seen like in their design as time's gone on, is they're putting everything right when players are spinning as many plates as possible to pile on as much as they can. And then that becomes well, if I let my DPS slip, I'll be able to focus more, which means you'll maybe run into the enrage at the end. And I think that's the kind of thing that's fascinating about how, like, I've not really seen that in WoW design, but it's there. Yeah. It's clearly there, because you pull 2 extra mobs, now the game's impossible. Why is that? Because you don't have the tools, you don't have the attention to like I guess interrupt everything. Or, you know, like Zakfir is a good example, actually. Zakfir is a fight that is entirely about being prepared for the next 2 seconds.
Yes.
And having your tools up for that. Because like it's really obvious because of the egg. The boss does stuff. And the boss doing stuff is so fine, it's so easy. Dodge that, easy. Dodge that, easy. Dodge that, easy. Unless you put yourself in precarious positions, right? Unless you put yourself up against a wall or as far away from the frontal cone as possible. If you're in vague mid-range, you're fine. You can dodge everything as long as you're not looking at your bars. And then the egg comes in. And if the egg hatches, now you're managing the boss and the spider. And
You shit yourself and die.
sometimes you run out of tools for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't interrupt 2 or 3 things at once. But the other part is like you have to make sure that you're watching for the spider casting Web Blast and also Zekfir casting Enfeebling Spittle. And that's why I love it so much, because I know I can see this, I feel this, I feel my attention being stretched.
It's like a working memory test as well.
Yeah, it's like that. And that's why I like Delve so much. Whenever you're like pulling big or fighting boss, I'm like, okay, this is all different things that I'm trying to react to in whatever way I can in my class with my movement kit, with my everything. But that's clearly not for everyone who plays WoW, which means the progression comes in, and this is where I get a little bit Dark Souls talky into it, because one of the things that's really fun about playing Dark Souls and Souls games is less so Elden Ring, because it's getting a little bit on in complexity and stuff. But one of the things that would make the difference in Dark Souls a lot of the time is how much damage you dealt.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think it, right? Because the bosses have like, especially like the first Dark Souls, they just have like 2 attacks, 3 attacks. If you were an Ornstein and Smoke struggler back in the day, and you've played Elden Ring recently, go back and fight Ornstein and Smoke. You'll laugh with how easy it is. It is hilarious how simple it is now. But one of the big problems there, one of the things that people rapidly learned was that the more damage you do, the bigger your chance of success. Why is that? The boss is still doing the same rotation, same attacks. Sometimes having more health would help as well. And the answer was amount of times you can fail.
Yeah.
And
it's all about tolerance.
Yeah, and the amount of chances the enemy has to kill you. If you burst the boss down,
it's a video game, actually.
Yeah, if you burst a boss down in no time whatsoever, it doesn't have a chance to kill you. And that's especially noticeable in a lot of these Delve enemies, where like you can't get overwhelmed if you just walk through and blow things up. Or the difference between something hitting you for 20% of your health and 30% of your health means you can eat 4 of them instead of 5 of them, instead of 5 or whatever. And that's where like the difference will come in naturally for players who aren't very good at the game and aren't solving issues. They're coming back with better gear. And that's the whole like modern video game thing, where you're playing Dragon Age Inquisition, which isn't modern anymore, but it's in my head because
it was a long time ago.
It sold 12 million copies.
Oh yes.
And do you know why it sold 12 million copies? Because it was the most fucking. I've not played it. This is me taking from what I've heard from other people and stuff. It's an MMO light.
It is
modern action RPG, where there's some mechanics, but it was just a loot loop basically. It was just a loot loop. You got better and walked through, and they're sorted.
Yep, and you got BioWare story and BioWare companions. Yeah. That's the thing. That's the sell.
Yeah, and it's like that little simple loop of get gear, go to place that was red, now it's green. Obviously, I don't know if that was in the game, but you know the idea from WoW. Like, you weren't getting better, your character was getting stronger. And I think that's where Delves run into this problem. Because that's fine. But then people are looking at the top one that everyone's doing now and going, why can't I do that? And the answer is, sorry, you have to wait for gear because you're not good enough. And that's literally the answer as prescribed by the game. As probably discussed internally in Blizzard when they made these.
Some people will get better by getting better, seeking out a guide. Other people, it's going to be gear.
Yeah, other people will come back next week and find a better time.
Yeah.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because that's how a lot of our like later work progress goes. Where it's like you kill a boss, a mechanic earlier, or a mechanic has someone at 10% HP instead of 0. Perfect. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean delves aren't busted, or delves are where they intended, or delves don't have room for improvement. Those are all true, or possibly true. But that's basically that's as much design thoughts as I can talk about. Talk about delves without getting into the very specifics of how they're like individually handled and why some of them fucking suck balls. Fuck you, suspicious Niffin. Fuck you. Anyway.
Core of it, player comfort, player working memory. How much can a player execute their rotation? Do they have easy access to the abilities, the toolkit that they need? If their class has specific weaknesses, do they understand how the specific strengths of their class overcome those weaknesses in that context, which itself is a new context where people have got the goal of, I need the biggest great vault for next week, therefore I need to get 8s, therefore that's my goal. And even if Blizzard intends that for the best players to just be, you get 8 on week 1, because you're good at the game. But for other people, they intend it to be a slow journey. Well, if you do not use the internet and you only engage with World of Warcraft by, imagine this, clicking play on battle.net, logging in, and then logging off when you're done, you'll probably have a great time and you'll have the intended progression. If you have the horrible burden of knowledge from the internet that tells you want an 8, and then you think you need to get an 8, but you're maybe not there, haven't practiced, or just feel really time pressure to do that, then you're going to have less of a good time.
Because it is like, in the real world, you relatively stop this kind of thing from happening. In more of a PvP sense, by, like, you have skill difficulties and the idea of an amateur and a pro and intermediate, right? Because someone goes climbing, like, you know, someone who's new to climbing isn't going to come in and go, tall, big one, I can do that. Everyone else is doing it, why can't I? And you go, well, the answer is pretty self-evident, right?
And then it's hard because you know, you go on YouTube, some bastards tell you that it can be done on a 667 balanced druid. 560, yeah, that would be it. 567 balanced druid. They see it has happened. They have watched our video. They thought, that's they told me I could do it and I can't.
I'm really tempted to
and that is,
run.
like, even though we get why you can play balanced druid. But
I'm shit at balance, by the way.
Part of that.
Terrible.
Don't
Horrible.
twist the knife.
Horrible. I mean,
there's blood everywhere.
I mean, I hate it. It's
There's
awful.
blood everywhere.
The amount of times I sat on renewal, the amount of times I sat on like a regrowth proc, the amount of times I sat, didn't CC stuff, didn't typhoon cast, miserable.
Only because you know, to others who aren't that experienced, they're just dead. They haven't progressed. They have an expectation of progress because of the other games that they play, and then they feel bad, and WoW is bad at teaching. I mean, they were almost onto a trick. Whenever Bran said, Nerubians come from that web, you're like, shit, maybe someone might learn Nerubians come from the web after the 80th time. Or Bran...
Don't stand there!
There you go. Now, if only Bran could say, like, press the F key, because he knows your keybinds. You know the way back in, like, old video games whenever immersion wasn't a thing, and a character would just flat out say the keybind in their VO.
Yeah. Press the X button to continue.
It was the best in some games where you could rebind your keys, but of course that would just mean the dialogue would be wrong.
Yeah.
See the stuff we had to deal with when we were 12? Hard times.
Was it the
Very hard.
Was it the Spider-Man 2 tutorial really bad for that? Not modern Spider-Man 2, which is a perfectly video game, but the original Spider-Man 2, the one that actually set the
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, the Spider-Man 2 that really was the birthplace of all open world video games.
The pizza delivery open world game. Yeah.
Perfect. Incredible. I feel Shaman doesn't have the greatest utilities to do high delves well. Also, healing is a huge loss in damage. Yeah, that's why almost all classes have ways to self-heal that are specifically proc-based or time-based. As an example, Red Paladin. Red Paladin has a talent that gives you the 8-second instant flash of light instead of the other one, which I can't remember the other one was. Yeah.
Cast that costs mana. It ends up being free, but every 6 seconds you can instant cast it.
Yeah. Shamans have, like, the enhancement shamans have the ability to spend maelstrom weapon stacks on heals, which makes them a super strong, like, off healer in dungeons with chain heal. But that's kind of the super awkward kind of thing where, like, I think Shaman's probably got all the tools it needs, but I haven't played it to see that. Just because I'm thinking about all of your life. I'm thinking about poison cleansing totem for a couple of situations. I'm thinking for, I suppose you don't really, there's a lot of those you kind of can avoid.
But I think, like, fair to say some classes better than others.
Oh yeah, like I feel like I'm gonna try it someday on a Shadow Priest and immediately go, I'm so sorry, I was wrong the whole time, because priests have the least shit imaginable. They're just like, do you want to press a button? Sorry. What is psychic scream and silence every 45 seconds, 30 seconds with the talent, I think. But then that will be a sub-optimal talent setup for damage.
But that's the only thing that matters
Actually-
because of the size of the bar. And
Actually-
that's another thing.
I'm going to check something really quick here, really quick.
While you do that, like, it's so easy to just default to taking, like, what is the best single target rate spec? And that will obviously not be focusing on things that'll be
That's
good in
exactly
delves.
what I'm checking. I'm checking what the Delves build looks like for priests.
If you were going to say Shanna, like, oh my god, well, no, you're not taking on word up now. You are.
Yep.
You're about to cause a fight with automatic check.
No, it's not, because the person who writes this is Ellipsis.
Never mind.
This is the problem, right? You see, recommended talent builds, they shit all over the nature of what talent's supposed to be, because this is literally from Shadow. And like, I don't play Shadow Priest, so obviously, but I can tell certain fucking things are obvious. Best Shadow Priest Delve talent builds. Delve. The Shadow Priest Delve build is identical to the Mythic Plus build due to the content's very similar nature. Are you huffing fucking crack? Jesus wept.
But say that again.
The Shadow Priest Delve build is identical to the Mythic Plus build due to the content's very similar nature. It does not take either Psychic Horror
Massive stacker.
or Last Word, which is Last Word reduces cooldown of silence by 15 seconds.
Now that to our enterprising commenter who said that you were unhinged.
Yeah.
Of course, that's relevant.
It doesn't take the cooldown reduction on Psychic Scream. It doesn't take the one where they stand in place. It doesn't take the increased amount of damage required to break Psychic Scream. It doesn't take the slow. It doesn't take the... It doesn't take when cast on yourself 30% of damage you deal refills your Power Word Shield. It takes Twins of the Sun Priestess, which is Power Infusion grants you 100% of the effects when using an ally. Where's the solo Delve build? Where's the solo Delve build? Where's the group Delve build? This is a completely fine group Delve build. But it's a terrible, terrible, terrible solo Delve build. For a million reasons. And like, I can tell that. Do you really need Phantom Reach? Probably not. You could probably rearrange a lot of this. You don't need Leap of Faith because you can get the Master Spell that way. Yeah, you could easily swap that in somewhere else. What's that? Activating Fade removes all snare effects. That's probably pretty useful in some cases. Damage-wise, it looks perfectly fine. But the fact that it doesn't take either of the big bonuses from like healing and shielding, dispersion buffs, or the silence buff, and like, this is half the problem, right? This is half the problem.
It sure looks like it, and it's one of those things. Even if, and I'm going to, I'll presume that there is to sort of. It's good to steal man by default.
Yeah.
Even if there is loads of in-depth explanation, suggestions if you're having certain struggles, or if you're solo, and that's there written. Copy paste go. In the same way that, like, you know, even talking about sometimes, like, you come home from work, you're just going to relax, play the game. You know that the amazing key binding spreadsheet tool and masterclass that was produced by you exists. But that feels too much like work, so you'll do it tomorrow. And I don't say that in like a pejorative way. I am the same with chores, with things. We're all like that, don't worry. But, you know, with WoW, it's a game that actually does benefit so much from doing things that do resemble like digital work, digital chores. Whereas in Diablo, assuming you know where you're going to pump your points or whatever into, is just brrr. Away you go. And that's a fundamental difference with Delves. Yeah. Now, there is one more Delve-related topic here, but I'm going to split us up a little bit so that we don't all sort of get delved out. I'm not actually talking about Delves, but it's more about like scale and the future of the game, how big Delves could be. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. We got other topics, other fun topics. Let's talk about this week. This week in WoW, because this season is truly out. We had a strange seasonal opening where there was no Mythic Plus. There was just Mythic 0. And where, I mean, again, the delves that we did got us better gear than progressing the first half of the heroic raid, which is kind of funny. Anyway, that happens. We've got LFR Wing 2, Mythic difficulty, story mode, no catalyst, because the catalyst is once every 2 weeks. Yeah. And next week, we will have the final bit of the raid. And that'll pretty much be it for the season. Although, I mean, it'll be followed probably literally a month after, we estimate anyway, by 11.0.5. Story mode then. Story mode is actually relevant to all of us. You don't need to do it for this reward, but basically there's a quest, and what does that quest give you? Where is
This
it?
quest gives you an enchanted ruined harbinger crest.
Yes.
Which is the one that you can use to item as down here. The 619 gear. Now 619 is the max quality. Obviously it starts at whatever's 5 stages below that, 606 or something. You'll need to have a spark for that, obviously, but I think that the point is that this is the most free way to get this, because that would cost you 45 rune crests otherwise.
Yeah.
Which basically means you've got 45 free crests here in terms of an upgrade. In terms of skipping past the needing normal gear whatsoever kind of stage.
Yep, and as of
into it.
this week, you'll be able to have 2 sparks.
With 2 sparks last week.
Oh,
This will be 2.5.
Okay.
This will
Well,
be 2.5.
if you still have your 2 sparks, then you could get a 619 weapon, which, you know, if you're not doing heroic raid and stuff, that'll be great.
Yeah, I'm considering doing that. But the problem is I have a champion Bellular's syringe. But I'm a blood DK, and having a stick that does damage and no stats probably isn't the best move for me.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, but I do so much. I spend more time in Unholy than Blood because I'm doing delves, because I'm doing stuff out in the world and stuff like that. And I'd rather just get it over with quicker rather than slowly tickle his blood. That'll be different now that I'm down to mostly raiding and mostly I'll be doing group content mostly after this. So I might have to get a weapon. But also my best embellishments are I've got a veteran neck and a veteran boots. I could replace those with 2 items, and then I could have 619 in both those slots. And also the neck would have a socket so I can get the embellishments going. I could do those. These are the kind of thoughts running through my head when I get my enchanted ruined harbinger crest. Because I also have enough ruined crests, because you get 2 for delve now, which is insane. 2 for Tia delves. I think they hotfixed that in while we were raiding.
Yeah, they did.
Because we had a really, really, really funny thing where this is during our break in a raid on Monday night. Yes.
Yep.
And someone logged out and logged back in and said, I just got a load of free ruined crests. What? We were like, what? That's crazy. You logged out and logged back in and got it, right? So then we went, okay, well,
Sounds like a scam.
we're gonna relog and see if we get them. And though everyone did, and every tier 8 delve I did after that got me 2 rune crests. So I think they hotfixed back in that those were supposed to be rewards, which means it's easy to cap on rune crests, even without M plus. For gear upgrades, which will speed that whole thing up. But anyway, yes. That's the thing you can get for story mode.
Yeah, and between that and time walking, there's basically a lot of free gear.
There's a
big week for free gear.
Yeah, this week I didn't actually do it on my main because I knew we were going to do it later as a guild, and I wanted to make sure I could trade loot from Black Temple. But I did on my druid. I did Black Temple today, and got a 610 cloak, the Sunstrider cloak from MT from Magic Terrace, which is really strange having a TBC bit of gear that's super strong. But then I also got a dagger from, I think it might be the Ansarek Int dagger I got. And I was like, nice, that's good. Yeah. I don't have an offhand. Also, I'm not going to play this character. Also, I'm mostly PvPing with it. Fuck. But I'll do it again on my DK later and see what I get. But it is the most free gear of all time. The chance of getting them feels pretty low from the Black Temple bosses. But if you're going in with a geared group because you're lucky, as opposed to a shit ton of alts, then you can just get traded down gear. And that's one of the reasons I'm hoping to do with our guild group, is literally just I'll be in my DK. There's no item it drops that I'll need outside of boots. So realistically, I'll just be able to funnel anything I get down to whoever needs it. Be it
other things, just even raw catalyst pieces. Because they can get turned into tier. So there's that going on. Of course, you can get more shots at tier gear and filling up your vault with LFR. Although...
Go for it.
Yeah, I would rather do Tier 8 Delve than LFR personally, if I wanted gear. Yeah. But LFR is plenty of shots at a loot table, and if there is one thing I mentioned in the Delve video we published, I tried to highlight, doing this will teach you a good fundamental skill in WoW, like even positioning yourself near the little brand potions. Yeah. Similar thing with LFR. If raid seems intimidating, do LFR. Pretend the mechanics matter. Obviously, the game won't, but you can look at things and get a little bit more game sense.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I was thinking of doing at some point. I was going to do it with Zekvir until they nerfed him. Until they broke him, I should say. Or fixed him, I should say.
Who knows? Who knows at this stage?
Anyway, what I was going to do was actually, for member content, I was going to talk over my run of Zekvir to explain everything I did and why, different points of time, to kind of show here's how you solve these mechanics. Because I think that stuff is actually super, super useful for getting better. And obviously not everyone who plays WoW is like, I want to get better really, really well, blah, 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 blah. But I think one of the things that a lot of people swear by is literally watching other people play. And especially if you're watching someone who's commentating what they're doing or saying, not necessarily commentating on the fly, but like one of the things that I didn't get very good at League of Legends, and I hate that game and I'll never play it again.
Come on, we should play it again. Come on.
No, we have to play Deadlock. But
shit,
it was, I used to watch a shit ton of Shifter, and Shifter was great at whenever he would die, he would just like explain what he's doing or explain what he thought was going to happen. And you're like, this is wonderful because you get to see all these things. So I might do that at some point with Delves. I might do a full thing of just, here's every decision made in the tier 8 Delve, all of the decisions that you might not notice that is being made by someone playing. That are being made by someone playing. Here they are.
We're saying you're talking about tier 1.
Question mark, Zach Fear.
Yeah, tier 1. Because just in the comments, somebody said, I'm being melee crit for 4 million.
Yes. Yeah, that was not the case before. Zach Fear.
That would be tier 2.
Question mark, yes. That double question mark tier is the bad one.
So
you
don't
can do first,
yeah, don't expect to do the other tier. That's going to be something maybe with nerfs, maybe if you're just geared to the tits near the end of the season. It could be they have one that is approachable in the first month, but the double question mark difficulty is like optimized gear end of season when you're just ready to go.
Level 60 brand.
Level 60 brand, that's big. Yeah.
He hits obscenely hard. The eggs have millions and millions and millions of health, and Bran dies in like 2 hits.
Oh,
and Bran dies because Bran eats mechanics because he's a hunter.
He really does.
He just dies. It was like the one of the big RNG things was Bran getting like one of the big things that changed whether or not it was instantly a success or a wipe or something was the first fear. Because when you pull, Bran runs up, because Bran thinks he's a survival hunter with a gun somehow. So he runs right up to the boss when you're in melee, like fighting him. So he doesn't move out of the circle, the fear circle. So he gets feared directly back towards the door. And if Zach Fear is aggroing Bran, and this actually applies for tier 1 as well, you can kind of cheese a little bit if Zach Fear follows Bran into the doorway, his egg will get stuck in the tunnel and you can AoE it easier. There's really weird small things like that are RNG based on Bran's behavior getting feared or not. And yeah, Zach Fear ambush in the Delphi does the same mechanics except the egg. So you can kind of soft learn him there. Or once you beat him in the tier, you see, oh, it's just him, it's over. It's over. Anyway.
To finish the season,
yes,
there is a new thing.
Is there?
Blizzard have removed progression from World of Warcraft.
Thank fuck.
They have undid the Shadowlands. What? They have undid the Shadowlands.
Shadowlands?
So, Mythic Plus dungeons. Obviously, they're different now. If you're one of our members, Dakor, our sweaty gamer man, because he does Mythic Raid and stuff. He put together a sort of big everything that's changed document. So that is, I believe, up on Bellular Talk Games.
Yeah.
So that's good. Overall, then, to talk about these, the thing that's new, on top of all the other things that are new, is the scoring system. So previously, you had to progress on both Tyrannical Week and Fortified Week. That's no longer a thing. Like, there is a Tyrannical and Fortified Week, but they just swap being active at 7 and 10.
Yeah.
So basically, with the new system, the whole, you need to score, that's gone. So that actually means you're able to increase your rating way faster than you were able to previously. And that would mean that if you want to hit KSM, which is a rating of 2000, to get your instant piece of heroic tier gear, you can just go and do that.
I actually forgot about this. I forgot that this was a whole question. I forgot that this was happening. And the entire time you were speaking, I wasn't paying any attention because I was too busy looking at the mute button on my Stream Deck being lit up. I'm wondering if you were muted. But I realized that since no one has said we're muted and also people are responding to what's being said, I then was able to go, okay, well, it's fine. I'll snap back in and try to parse what Michael was saying again, bring it back in my brain. And I just was like, oh, it's good again.
It's good again.
You can just... Is Matt muted? Are you serious? Are you serious?
Oh, you've opened yourself up, sir.
Are you taking the piss, boys? Are you taking the piss?
What the rub is, though, you'll get 2,000 if you hit +7 in every dungeon, or if you deplete a +8. In order to get 2,500 rating, which will unlock the additional spell effects for every version of your tier gear, you need to get 2,500, and that is basically just you getting a 10 on everything on average. So if you get something at a 12 or an 11, well, obviously count for more. That's basically that. We also have got our mount. If you scroll down to the bottom of the document, everyone will see the amazing Mythic Plus
It's
mount.
not a recolor of some dog shit from last time.
But it is the Season 1 mount. And that means the Season 2 mount may be a recolor. We don't know.
It's just... this is really smart. Because whenever
It's the mech suit for Marcus, /
whenever
everything else in that skeleton.
Magony feels like he's a wee bit soft and fleshy, he can hop into that.
Oh,
I'm like, I'm a Thragar again, let's go. That's sick. Nice. Yeah, I think this is very, very cool. I think this is very useful. Mostly because I can just do it in 1 week and then not do it again. That was my biggest problem towards actually getting... Because I didn't get KSM in Season 4. And the problem was because I was playing the game for 1 week and I was like, I couldn't be fucking bothered anymore.
just
This is like I got halfway there. I went, I won't do it next week because whatever. But now I'm just like, I can just literally do it.
yeah. I didn't.
Like,
But I did have like 400,000 Plunderstorm coins. So don't worry, I was still playing WoW. I miss Plunderstorm. And by the way,
oh, yes.
tomorrow's Pirate Day. Where's Plunderstorm, guys? Please, I need a fix. Please, I'm going through withdrawal symptoms. I have been for months. Anyhow, our next topic, Matt, class. Oh,
No,
our next topic.
let me interrupt you because unlike you, Fake Gamer, I've done story mode. And I would like to talk very, very, very,
Yes.
very, very slightly about story mode's implementation.
What is the status of our meal? How is it?
So,
So
given everything we've talked about today, given that we talked about the design of delves and how some players don't particularly find the process of getting killed and having to like learn the fight, and they don't really find that engaging, and they'd rather press W. It's a thing you can do. Imagine if LFR was somehow easier.
perfect.
It's literally... Now, I don't know what happens if you die. I'm sure you can. But you go in and it's you and 9 of the expedition members, so Shuja, Grimax and all the other ones.
One of them will probably just res you.
I'm assuming one of them will just combo res you. So Ansurek does none of her mechanics. She does the web smack thing. Thing. If you know Blizzard, by the way, if you need Foley for any raid mechanics, I'm available for audio work.
We got to make that week aura pack.
Yeah, got the little 6-way web Kershmangle. Then you Kershmangle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
One
and
of
then,
those.
Then she does the Venom Nova if you've done the fight that does the, and then you have to do a wee boink to jump over it. You don't have to jump over it. It is literally just wah, and it does no damage, and you go, oh, okay. Didn't burst my AMS. I was like, oh, sure, fine. I did it as unholy. Sure, fine, whatever. And then some ad spawn, you kill those when she goes away. And then instead of doing the whole big round the circle, go up the stairs and fight all the boys and click all the web bridges and do all the fun things, you just teleport up and fight her last phase. And I think the only mechanic there that does any damage is, the ring
Yeah.
they're supposed to portal past. There's no portals, so the ring just closes. So I think if you're standing right on the edge, it'll knock you off. But otherwise, I think it's just like walk through the ring and you're done. So there's a grand total of 2 mechanics. 3 mechanics if you include clicking the portal that you're told to click.
It's also your rotation.
Is there?
I got to do your abilities.
I suppose, yeah. But yeah, actually, like that's exactly it, Max. The fact that story-based encounters and War Within are brain dead make everything very anticlimactic. That's the thing that I want to get to this.
Yeah.
Because this is not the case in the other game. The other game, puts enough of an effort into story mode that you go, okay, well,
Is he talking about Guild Wars?
and it is, yeah.
Is he talking about Second Life?
Definitely Second Life, 100%. So the thing about that is,
It's got raid bosses like you won't believe.
yeah. So the thing about, oh Jesus, Jeez,
Oh, if you die in the game, you might die in real life.
Jeez, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So in FF14, like the whole thing is, you do have to have a decent amount of like capability to actually beat a story mode boss. But it's very shared responsibility in that you can just die repeatedly and you get destroyed. It's fine, right? Whatever. But there's no limit to combat res in that game because it's just you get a debuff every time you res up to second, whatever. And it eats into healer time and mana and cast stuff. But the whole thing there is that you still have a climactic fight that asks you to play the game.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft is no longer interested in asking a certain amount of players to play the game. And I understand why.
Oh, they tried.
And
At times.
they tried, and I understand why this is the way. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them doing this. I just lament that it's necessary. People bitch so hard about the Thancred solo duty. I can't imagine the vitriol for WoW. Same with Out in the Cold, whatever one it was, Into the Cold.
Metal Gear?
The Metal Gear bit in
Metal Gear Thancred was easy.
That wasn't Thancred, that was the one. Thancred was
What am I talking about?
Thancred was Shadowbringers. The Endwalker one was.
Oh, yeah. The Guardian soldier mind control. You're not mind control, you're slurped into a boy.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. So there's those, right, which
That was basic video games.
yeah, but people really struggled with those. And that's where in raids there's a shared responsibility in FF. So if you don't really play the game and just die, it's fine. The rest of the player base will carry you through, right? That's okay. But it's so frustrating that, like, yeah, if it's just for narrative, don't make it part of the gameplay, play a movie of the fight or something, then why is it a fucking video game in the first place? That's the thing that bugs me.
It's
And
not.
It annoys
It's a
me.
fully integrated digital life experience.
And it annoys me. It annoys me about video games in general, right?
Yeah.
And this is a me problem. Normal difficulty in most games is too easy, right?
Yes.
By a substantial margin.
Almost always blows.
Yeah. Hard modes can either be too easy, or slightly too hard, or maybe just right. Just right's quite hard to get to. It's really frustrating for me, and a lot of times hard difficulties aren't really made that well either. They're just the normal, but they're harder
Yeah,
for
if it's
a
just
subset.
done by
It's just,
scaling, then
here's some scaling, whatever else. Like I hated playing God of War because the harder difficulties just felt wrong to me. They weren't bad, but this didn't feel great. This clearly feels like less effort than the normal, whatever. But the thing, it really bugs me that we have the video game medium where there's all these things that they try to like, not in a massive way, they try to tell you some semblance of story and involve you in some capacity in the mechanics and how things go, right? Mobs do casts and you pay attention to the cast names. They do things that feel right. You're like the queen goes away and her like the last vestige of her soldiers come and try to stop you. And like there's webs trying to pull you off platforms and stuff. It all feels really great and it feels perfect for the Nerubian. It feels everything. It's wonderful. And you're like, and then you go, well, I want the easy version of that. And the easy version of that is you don't have a game to play. I'm sorry. And you're like,
so like a lot of your point there is, so all of those FF14 examples that you've noted, I categorize as easy.
Yeah, they are easy.
They are easy. Alone in the whatever.
I think
Out in the cold. I was about to say Alone in the Dark. That is
that's different. Yeah.
series of horror games that is normally bad. Those are easy, but there are clear consequences.
Yeah.
And I think like Dark Souls Sword and Board is easy. It's just punishing.
Yeah, you're still playing the game.
Yeah, you're still playing the game. It's less punishing than if you are not using a shield, right? And that's why it's the more approachable way to play the game. And if you're new to a Souls-like game, I would totally recommend use Sword and Board. It's the right way to start. It's probably what they intend. So that's all cool and good. It's easy by design. The punishment is still there, and it gives you a very broad and usable solution to the problem. as you do a more, I mean, I'm not a big Souls-like guy, but I guess as you move to like a two-handed sword, well, that's now harder because every attack is more of a commit, and you can't just hold the block button and be okay. You've got to time things now, and then maybe with different weapons, they got different parry windows or, you know, whatever. And that's where that difficulty comes from. So the reason why Sword and Board still gets to be easy and fun, and the game ends up being rewarding and sticky, is because of the punishment. So in this, the problem is it all has to turn into generic slop because of the way that they've made it. And I guess that's like the problem with how they're doing raids. If the whole Ansarek experience was a delve, you could imagine them designing it like, imagine a Zekvir where there's the killable tier now, but maybe there's a tier below that is the story mode, where maybe you change the ag mechanic and people have just got to do the basic dance and survive to the end. Something like that's going to be very doable, because the thing in Zekvir that will kill you is too much cognitive load because of dealing with the egg and the spider that comes in the egg. Then it's designed to be a single player challenge where you can still have punishing mechanics, but and maybe you have an NPC in there that almost guarantees some damage in you know, whatever the easier version is, relatively speaking, so that even as the player, some of what you're doing is just contribute to damage, survive. You still kind of get to play a game. When it's just a raid boss diluted, Blizzard can't, like, what you want from that, Blizzard kind of, they cannot give that.
Yeah.
They can't give it. What they've done is they've used the follower dungeon tech and they've put it in there, and then they've balanced it to be really easy. There could be an argument for going a bit harder with the follower dungeon stuff, but then that starts to, like, you know, that kind of edges in the territory of LFR, and the design,
exactly.
Some of the boss designs won't really work when you're doing stuff with NPCs. I suppose ultimately, if it's purely for like a good narrative experience, instead of the scenario we got, maybe just let the raid be the raid. And instead of the scenario that we got at the end of the campaign, imagine it's more like a hyper-narrative delve, where there is a version of the end of the campaign that's actually like a hard solo duty. But there's an easier version.
Yeah, that's kind of thing, because, like, reviewing this, like, I read story mode.
This is LFR with less pain.
Yeah.
That's basically the problem. And it also means you can get to the end boss with less time gaining.
Yeah,
that's basically the point.
Because I like story mode. When I hear story mode, story mode, the bit that's supposed to have story in it. That's not what this is. This this is kill the last boss and see the cinematic that you've already seen on YouTube, which isn't really fair because not everyone will do that. Because
they need to call it semi-skimmed or something like that. It's just, we have heat treated this motherfucker. There's nothing left.
Yeah, because I do agree. Well, I say it's hard to disagree. It's kind of just stating fact. But like Smoldering saying, they didn't remove LFR or raids. The mode's going to be amazing for those with disabilities or people who don't want the stress of LFR. There's no downside to story mode. I will say that people with disabilities and people who don't want the stress of LFR, that's a very different line. Those are two very different categories of player. And I think it's interesting that they're conflated quite often, because that's a physical capability versus choice thing.
Yeah, and the toolkit available to deal with that difference in an MMO is radically different from other games. Yeah. Whenever you play, like, credit to them, whenever you play a modern Sony AAA, when you go to that accessibility menu, holy shit.
It's incredible. It is genuinely mind-blowing to look at it. In God of War and Spider-Man are the two examples that are just, what is it? Is it Spider-Man that, like, is... I don't know if it's quite blind with audio stuff, but I know there's like a visually impaired mode that is unbelievable. Like the contrast drawn with models is like, if you have extremely poor vision, you can still potentially play it because of how it's put together.
I noticed that in Last of Us Part 2.
That's not one.
Yeah, it basically, like, your enemies turn red and they're extremely obvious, which if you really struggle seeing detail, that's going to be a complete game changer. Yeah. It's harder to do that in an MMO with how MMOs are controlled. Because, like, you know the way MMOs, like, they're so closer to just a playable spreadsheet. I mean, they're not EVE Online, but they're way closer to a playable spreadsheet than, like, Last of Us.
Yeah, because like, I'm not trying to, because I know, like, with who I actually, like, who I come across as and how, like, the way I talk about playing games, people don't particularly want to learn to play a particularly, like, difficult game or whatever else. But I think that calling it story mode I think it's a disservice to people in how it's handled. Realistically, I feel like calling it story mode and be like, hey, this is story mode, we're giving you access to the story. It opens up the can of worms that is the fact that World of Warcraft is not always extremely good at having gameplay and the actual narrative match up in any capacity. They are improving at that.
Yeah.
The War Within specifically, they're improving with that fucking drastically. I hated how the final scenario of the campaign went because it clearly wasn't done right. Clearly wasn't, like, finished. I'm sure those developers know full well they would have loved another few weeks at it or another month at it. Whatever.
Mechanic only worked for me because I believed it existed.
Yeah, it didn't work for me.
And is that not the message of the campaign? Genius!
If it was, I would applaud them for their chutzpah on the narrative strength, but it was. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's a way that you can have satisfying story fights, even the ones that aren't hard and even ones that don't. Now, some of it might be smoke and mirrors, but I think that a lot of the modern game industry is getting good at smoke and mirrors for fights in a way. That even that is kind of just like, this is nothing. This is kind of nothing.
Imagine whatever your picture of a sort of a solo fight is, but then give the player Plunderstorm abilities. And I know that for loads of people are going, not that.
Oh yeah, you can do that, yeah.
But Plunderstorm was, I slash thing in front of me. I shoot thing in front of me. Very much not you just playing the piano with your keyboard rotation. And that frees up the cognitive space to move about the place and to play the game in front of you. And that's actually why I enjoy Plunderstorm so much, because it was only a few abilities. They were totally in muscle memory, and that meant my head was entirely thinking about, how do I fuck over the other guy?
How
do I mind game that
really
bastard?
Good,
and that is why, to me, it was just so sticky. That can work in a PvE context, in a boss fight or something. Because, funnily enough, most video games with boss fights don't give you a massive toolkit. You do not need your entire keyboard bound to play Dark Souls. Yet it's a hard punishing game that people love. Other things to talk about. You know what? Let's just do. What should we do? Classes. Do a little bit of classes because this.
Have you lost? Have you been killed by Blizzard literally in real life? Let's find out.
Are you a winner? Are you a loser? Well, we can find out.
Why are we looking at 95th percentile, Daco? You're smarter than that. There we go. All percentile. See this number.
I love seeing the difference, though.
Yeah, this number is for fucking crazy people. Don't look at it. Look at this number.
To expand upon what Matt means, because we always need to remember how professional thinking man Socrates ended up. It wasn't great for him. So, 95th percentile is interesting because it lets you see what the top of the top can do. And for the things that are trending, you really see the mathematical potential. The downside is sampling. So, as an example, Fire Mage is way down at the bottom of the 95th percentile. And in fairness, it's probably, it's near the bottom, but it's not at the very bottom like it is in, say, that's overall damage. Fuck it, I'm just going to make my point generically. Damn it, the data does not conform. But my actual point is, the best players will disproportionately flock to the things that can produce the best numbers with readily or potentially accessible gear.
Especially because this includes gear, which is the really crazy thing that it's hard to kind of to understand, is that this is a general representation of what's actually happening to a boss, not real mathematics that are, theorized and perfect or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
so
literally this is the damage happening. So fire mages are probably going to be less geared than arcane mages. Why? Because arcane mage was the meta going in. So people will put more effort in Arcane Mage. Not just skill, but also gear.
Yeah, your point being the people who even enter in the first place with an Arcane Mage are the people who are playing the strongest thing. The people who decide in the first place to enter with Fire Mage are likely not as focused on performance at all costs, which is a totally fine thing to do, actually. And it does create an interesting social problem for Blizzard, where if you like Fire Mage, if you thought, I can fire off my fiery phoenixes with my Kel'Thas balls, you're probably not feeling great. But it's probably not as bad as the 99th percentile chart would suggest.
Yeah. Blizzard should send an assassin to Kira's house. Just to stand there and be like, your page defaults to all percentiles now. Or else. And then we can have a whole story about Blizzard coercing add-on developers.
It'll be just like whenever Hasbro got the Pinkertons on people for like leaking Magic the Gathering cards.
Literally that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not joking saying the Pinkertons. No, the actual Pinkertons.
Yeah.
Oh dear, yeah, it's that funny thing, you know, the sort of the meta, the discourse that's set by the people who are at the top. Yeah. If we go to the all percentile damage, though, this is a far more interesting piece of data.
Different graph.
Yeah, it's a different graph. So we see different things when we look at this graph. The middle is going to be the median. Hang on, I love the Notion image thing when you try to bring it up.
Oh,
and
it does this.
And yeah, that happened to me as well.
Yeah.
But if you click off it and then click on again, voila, it works every time.
Oh, yeah. Also, do you like Enhancement Shaman's gambling for the deep-looted elements?
So that very, very, very rightmost point, that's like the highest parse that's there.
Yeah.
And then everything else is basically just different percentiles.
Look at the state of Firepage.
Which is to say, look at how low Frostmage goes.
Yeah.
I think it actually might be the one there with the lowest. Wow.
Destrolock. Sorry, Lauren.
Yeah. But low compared to its like bottom.
Oh, right. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, the biggest gap in the bottom.
So, turns out mistakes are possible, and they're really bad on Frost.
Yeah, with the spec being moved towards having more damage in Glacial Spike and some of the...
some of the
RNG and Spellslinger as well, I think. I can certainly see that causing an issue. Where if you hit a load of... If you use Glacial Spike wrong, if you don't use it or something, or you hit, you reliably don't shatter them with Flurry, I can see really low parses. But then low parses like that are probably people dying and stuff.
Should we bring up boss damage or keep it overall? What do people tend to prefer?
People prefer overall because it's handier. I think boss damage is probably better though. But it's kind of awkward because, what's realistic, what's, important for fights. Realistically, all damage is overall the more important, I think.
Yeah. Where Fury, obviously got nerfed. So this is them doing amazing. They've been nerfed. And to go through things, let's see. Rat Paladin doing pretty well. I think overall it's going to be quite nice to us. Mm-hmm. I wish we could get the same for Vault and Overlaid to see how much of a difference that there is. Pretty big difference from the middle, from like the average of the lowest to the average of the highest, though. Mm-hmm. It's big enough.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if that's big relative to all time. A little bit tricky to actually cover buffs and nerfs. So, Arcane Mage, nerfed. Holy Paladin, nerfed. Outlaw Rogue, nerfed. Arms Warrior, nerfed. Fury Warrior, nerfed. Mm-hmm. For the buffs, though, quite a lot. Blood DK, Balanced Druid, Feral Druid, Resto Devastation, or Resto Druid, Fire Mage, which, like as we saw, maybe needed, Mistweaver, Shadow Priest, Enhancement Shaman, Resto Shaman, Demonology, and Destruction.
Very good. Yeah, it's kind of weird because this is where buffed is interesting. Because I saw Blood DK buffed and I went, hell yeah, wait, I don't remember being buffed. And the answer was I wasn't.
Sandlane was.
Because Sandlane was.
Yes, which we talk about in an upcoming video that talks about Sand Lane, but the PTR went down, so we had to delay the video because we don't have the footage. Pog.
Yeah, so let's see.
But this is just tuning upwards, right?
Yeah, this is just tuning up.
Demon Hunters, fix an issue that caused I-Beam's damage to be reduced beyond 1 target instead of 5.
Also didn't get isolated praise damage bonus, which is, by the way, a lot of bonus damage.
Cocked.
Yeah.
Balanced Druid. Well, Matt, maybe you only got your eye level 5, 6, 7 because you were buffed by 6%.
Probably.
On your tier 8 delta, yeah, big noob.
Honestly, swear to God, probably. Because I think if I had spent an extra Star Surge 16, all ability damage increased by 6%, that's probably ends up being like an 8% increase overall, maybe a 7%. Something.
Quick spot of bro math.
If I had been 7-8% longer on that boss, I probably would have died.
Fair.
Honestly, that boss fight was squeaky. It was bum squeaky, as they say.
Feral.
Increase.
Haven't always been the happiest, but 3% all abilities, 6 rip, ferocious bite 3, feral frenzy 10, druid of the claw, ravage damage 3, resto everything up by 8, and some more damage.
Resto is not in a good spot meta wise, but I think Resto is a fucking great spot to actually play. The addition of the addition of the talent that heals when you press rejuve, heals for up to 60% of its actual healing. Oh, the fact that I played Resto on and off for my entire fucking life. The first time I raided was Ulduar as a Resto Druid. I quit the game in TBC because I was trying to play Resto and I didn't get the staff I needed after doing Heroics Daily for a few weeks. But that specifically is so fucking... So it's like Riptide? Yeah, it's like Riptide. It's like Riptide but doesn't have charges, so you're blanketing a raid. But the problem with blanketing a raid with Rejuve was you're not actually fucking healing when you're blanketing. So you preemptively blanket. But if you rejuve someone who's low, who's like taking a hit of damage, then someone else is going to fucking heal them. Instead of letting your rejuve take across. So it was awkward. You were only really rejuving for incoming damage. But I did Black Temple today. And the actual gameplay flow of rejuving people and watching their health bar go boop is so fucking nice. So nice. Such a game changer. To the point where like I don't care if it's weak. I'm more than happy to play it. More than happy to play it just because it fits.
Evoker, 10% increase to Disintegration. Same for Eternity Surge over on Devastation. Mages then, right, nerf time. Arcane Blast, down 5. Arcane Missiles, down 8. Sun Fury Meteorite, down 15. Burden of Power, the damage bonus to Arcane Blast reduced to 20 instead of 30.
Makes
and
sense.
Similar for Arcane Barrage. Fire, though, everything up by 6. Living Bomb by 25%.
They were very careful, Living Bomb. Because of the fact that it goes mental, it could really get out of hand in AoE if they didn't be careful that way.
So Mistweaver, everything up by 3.
That's good.
Holy Paladin, now it got changes. So all healing's up by 6.
No, it's not.
Sorry, all healing is down by 6%. I'm stupid. Judgment damage up 60%. Crusader strike damage up 60%. Hammer of Wrath 20%. Avenging Crusader damage transfer amount, those being reduced to 6. Sorry. Yes, to 600%, no. To 260 from 420. And Holy Prism single target damage is increased by 100%, and its AoE increased by 50%.
Yeah, so you can see that's obviously they had to drop Avenging because they're boosting everything basically, which is cool.
Yep. So that's what's going on for them. Yep. Priest's Shadow, all your damage up by 6%.
But 5% of your Psychic Link's gone again. It's so funny to me that they keep changing that, right? They just keep changing that. They just keep going, Psychic Link is 20, 25, 30, 25, 20, 25, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 25. Sorry, you low rolled. The dev said, AoE for Shadow Priests. Nah, you're not like that. Remember you complained when we gave you Mind Seer? Well, now you're not allowed AoE. Deal with it.
Take your punishment.
It is awkward because like
clearly the designer of Shadow Priest is a disciplined priest.
I was doing I did one time walking as a Shadow Priest, level 34. Had Shadow Crash, had the Shadow Crash applying dots, had Psychic Link. I was gaming. Except for mobs lasting, like mob packs lasting less time than Shadow Crash's cooldown. So I was walking into a fight with 4 mobs or 5 mobs and going, my AoE is casting Vampiric Touch on every mob and hoping they aren't dead by the time I'm finished. It sucked horribly.
Pog?
Compared to other classes that are just like compared to, because the other one I was doing a lot was Frost Mage. I'm just like, fucking Frozen Orb, Comet Storm, Ice Nova, Blizzard, Cold Snap resetting Frozen Orb, Comet Storm, fucking let's go.
Yeah.
Instant Frostfire bolts exploding and fucking billions of damage. Everything going to happen is like, bam, instant damage, everything exploding. And then Shadow Priest been like,
I want to give.
I'm applying my dots now. Can you hold damage so I can do some AoE, please?
Yeah, I've got to say, like, I enjoyed maining Priest last expansion. The reason why I haven't is being a Paladin's just nicer day to day.
Yeah. Being a Priest in actual, like, playing an expansion, new content is balls.
I mean, maybe this gets to the Helldivers thing, where Priest has got an opinionated design, and that's their intent.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you know, the Paladin's like the flipping sonic screwdriver, where it just solves every problem.
Yeah.
So that means if you're a Paladin, you're like, oh, I feel good. Bit challenging. To briskly cover the rest, Rogues, all your ability damage is down by 4%. Your melee autos are down by 8%. Your dispatch is reduced by 10%. Just end it all now.
Yeah. Fuck you, Outlaw. You were overperforming, and Rogues can't have fun this expansion. They're the WoD Warlocks.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We'd rather you not play Rogue right now, thank you.
And they've had some tuning to their tier. Shaman's enhancement, all damage up by 4%. And what's this? Witch Doctor's Amstino reduces the cooldown of Feral Spirit by 1 second. Oh, instead of 2 seconds.
Yeah, they were getting so many Feral Spirits out. Like it was really stupid that like their damage profile was flattened because they had their cooldown up all the time. It's fun, but it's a wee bit much. It's a wee bit much, so I can totally deal with that. I'm going to super asking, why does alt leveling feel slow? Unironically, I think that's a skill issue. Not even joking. Not even joking. Alt leveling feels fast as fucking hell.
I feel like context is going to be useful here.
Which does make me assume that you're doing things that would traditionally be for alt leveling, like questing and world quests. In which case, that's just slow. That feels slow. It feels horrible compared to dungeons. Especially time walking now. Time walking now, you can just go level and not think and not anything. Just
2.5 hours. Level. 2.5 hours to max level.
A gameplay about 2.5. Yeah.
Maybe some queuing.
Mainly been doing side quests and world quests. Yeah, it's not that you're missing something. It's just that those are slower than dungeons by far. Like dungeons are really, really fast for leveling and stuff.
Personally,
I wouldn't recommend. Like I wouldn't say, well, drop what you're doing and spam dungeons. I would definitely recommend doing the side quests.
Oh yeah, they're way better.
And just enjoying the fact that your process is a bit slower. Like, but it is real. Like it is astonishingly slow.
Yeah, like the side quests have actually got good content, and you'll get renown from them. And renown is account wide. It's weird. You almost need
Warband wide.
Warband.
Get it right, Michael.
You almost need to recalibrate your brain because you're so used to being like, there's no point in doing that. Useless. It's not in my main. Don't need. What's the point in rep?
Yeah.
So you do need to kind of rewire your brain a little bit. I guess it's like whenever you realize that Bran is account wide or Warband wide as well. Yeah, it's just funny, the whole Warband thing. To finish off with classes, though, I'm not sure where we were. Warlock, I think.
We know where words, noises, sounds. Resto Shaman got some damage buffs. I see they're buffing healer damage, which is quite nice. Warlock damage, Demon Bolt. Sure.
20%. Pact of the Hour Doomguard damage increased by 45%. Felguard increased by 15%. Destro, everything up 6%. Dimensional Rift increased 40%. And Channel Demon Fire increased by 40%. Were they just not picked?
I really love this game. I love
That's such a big swing.
Yeah, I love it.
I know what happened. The new ChatGPT model that was trained in reinforcement learning dropped. And they got it to do tuning. That's why the tuning's all happened. That's like Gigabrain theory.
Yeah, like it was as simple as that. Dimensional Rift was shit. Alice was Channel Demon Fire. And it is really funny how much you look at things and go, if you had to buff that by 40%, you clearly fucked something up somewhere. Like, you clearly did, like,
Just lost in a sea of Jira issues. But thankfully, as a Microsoft company, they can move to Azure DevOps.
yeah, these are.
Woohoo!
There's certain cases here where, okay, maybe 12% extra damage for Resto Shaman is fine reaction to damage, right? No one's picking our spells, so we've buffed them by 40% is insane. As is the Holy Paladin, Judgment, and Crusader Strike damage increased by 60%. You're like, what did you think was going to happen with the numbers? Did you just think, I want to take Avenging Crusader? Like, what? How do you double Holy Prism single target damage? Like, what kind of oversights are happening in balancing that this is occurring? Really
Is it an
weird, like-
oversight? Or, I mean, as much as I did that as a joke, ground and Jira issues.
Possibly.
Only so many things to do. And
Yeah,
that's the thing. I've been thinking so much lately about how work gets done and batching and, you know, are they all on a Slack channel? Soon to be Teams. One hopes. Ugh. God,
Probably.
I'd jump out a window if I had to use Teams. But are they all on a channel? Just booping messages to each other? Do they just have a big list of tickets? Listed by or sorted by priority, grouped by priority, and they're just working their way through the list.
No,
even though,
sorted by recent.
even though there may be different things, which then means context switching happens. Like, a lot of this just screams to me that people have got to get an immediate problem done, and they're in constant triage mode. It's tricky because, like, triage comes from the Crimean War and working out how do we sort battlefield casualties so we can actually prioritize who can be saved. Which obviously means if you were not a net beneficiary of the triage system, well, the whole point is you're probably a goner anyway, if the system's done right. So if you're kind of triaging based on priority, well, okay, it's not people who, you know, bleed out in the Crimean War. I'm talking about the 1800s, by the way, not modern, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's just at the bottom of the pile. And then it needs to be whenever it's finally gotten around to, whenever the firefighting has finally stopped. And, you know, the effort, because even triaging takes effort and team allocation. And
Yeah, because deciding what to do is a very important thing to do.
And then you've got the amount of context switching you'll have, especially if people are doing work across different classes and everything's interoperable. Yeah, so I imagine not done, but I imagine the reason is less lazy, incompetent devs who hate the game and more work can be inherently chaotic, especially in a live game. And sometimes, like, the complexity of the end product sort of outstrips the way in which we build that product.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's...
That's probably what happened to Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
Like, as a good example of just
No, that was 343 being bad. Capital B. Get your facts straight, Michael.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I
Forgot my gamer facts.
Yeah, so, like, I would never say it's just a dev being a shithead. Like, I would never suggest that. But it is always like, I just want to know. I just want to know how you make the talents and don't at the same time go, it seems like a good number.
Yeah.
And then go, number's a bit low. Fix it. And I guess it's the awkward part. I love to know, like, to the outsider, right? You look at that and go, well, why did you not just go, number's a bit low. Up. Number good. Off we go. Put that in the ship. Done. Sweet.
I'm going to raise that with a minor. Do you know what WoW edit looks like?
Only glimpses of it.
They have dev tools.
Yeah.
They can accomplish great things with their dev tools.
Through miracles.
And sometimes those miracles are in functionality. Whenever you see a WoW dev using, using WoW edit, like at BlizzCon doing a little demo, you're seeing this absolutely gorgeous work that looks like it's the GIMP UI from 2006.
It honestly, honest to God, every time I see it, I immediately get flashbacks to the Warcraft 3 map editor. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, oh my God, they're still using that to make the game today.
And funnily enough, that's literally where it spawned from.
Yeah.
Because World of Warcraft, I mean,
is a Warcraft 3 custom map.
We're just playing a big custom map. That's it.
I much prefer Final Fantasy Epic RPG. God, that's a good custom map. I've spent must be hundreds of hours playing that, just grinding job levels up. Fucking hell.
Beautiful.
I think I've spent more time in FFE RPG than in FF14 grinding job levels.
ERP.
Epic RPG. It's called FFE RPG. Now, when I first played that map, I didn't know what ERP was. I don't even think the term had been coined, so I'm sorry.
Oh my god, those were the days. Back when everything was pure, innocent, and good. An altogether more wholesome time. It wasn't.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
To top us off, arms, your blade storms being reduced by 10%. Fury, all of your damage has... Sorry. 3% of your damage has ran away. 10% of your blade storms ran away. Odin's Fury is a little bit less furious by 15%. And Strength of the Mountain increased your bloodthirst and rampage by 20%. But it was 15%, so maybe that's a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, nice. There you go. Changes. And are they all warranted? Let's look at the graph.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. Yes.
I do graph. I'm fucking Notion. I love Notion, but God's Mother of Christ. God Mother of Christ. That's not how it goes. It's Mary Mother of Christ. So let's see. I didn't see any unholy Death Knight buffs. Shaking my head.
Look at you being in the fair and balanced, doesn't need any changes segment.
Damn.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm so happy I did not stick to Feral. I feel like I would be enjoying this expansion 20% less if I was playing Feral, if not more.
Oh yeah.
If not less, if not more less.
That's why I went Paladin.
If not less by more. Yes. Fuck. Oh man, looking at that makes me sad.
Oh,
but
there
also
we go.
playing it makes me sad. That's why I'm like PvP as resto.
Matt, let's have some fun.
Ew.
Let's do a light topic.
A light
A
topic.
light and fun topic. Let's go on a magical journey.
Are we abusing people?
What? What? I didn't know that was in the stream doc.
Where are we going?
We are going to World of Warcraft X Overwatch. It's there. You'll find it. You're about to find it. Nope. Oh, there it is. It just appeared. Fantastic. This is just
good.
This is just like, I know that if we live in a perpetual state of back in my day, but in this case, when I say my day, I'm talking about 2016 and Blizzard's own content. So,
World of Warcraft Temu Edition.
if it finally properly happened, like there's been crossovers, but this is a crossover event. That means new legendary skins. Reinhardt gets to be Arthas. Zenyatta gets to be Thrall. Torbjorn gets to be Magni.
Trax.
And Widowmaker
Dwarf.
gets to be Sylvanas. Which I guess means
Blue skin. Sorted.
blue skin sorted, but also, does she use a bow?
Widowmaker?
Yeah.
She's a gunmate.
I know, but does she... There she has a bow in the picture. Does she shoot gun out of her bow?
No, because
Who
the
knows?
gun...
Who knows? But,
Hanzo should have been Sylvanas.
I'm not doing this purely to say, Lamau, let's make some money. Not purely. It's because I think about what could have been. And I
That's
compare
a
this.
nasty trap to fall into.
And I compare this to, this is, you know what? Overwatch Classic. We need it. I remember the original Overwatch Halloween event. Now, what they did with that is they had a selection of characters who got a new legendary skin, and there is this crazy thing. Crazy.
Oh, yes, that's right, yeah.
It was a player versus environment game mode, where you actually teamed up with your friends to fight NPCs. NPCs working on behalf of mean, spooky mercy.
But I thought Overwatch PvP was fighting against NPCs.
You took your shot, and it did hit the target. Yeah. Congratulations.
Maybe I should be a Widowmaker player.
Oh! So I just bring it up because in the past we got big new thing, bunch of new skins. Those were monetized skins because you only got them out of the event loot crates. And And yeah, you could just be, you know, playing more PvP to get more crates, to get a chance of getting the legendaries, and ultimately Blizzard just wanted you to, you know, cough up your credit card. What we get in the modern day is so much more depressing because you directly contrast it with the past, which is a dangerous thing to do, but it is, in fact, Blizzard's own fault. Because whenever the large job losses happened, one of the things that was gutted, in addition to unannounced survival game, RIP, never got to be announced, only got to be maybe leaked last week with a bunch of photos. Had a nice UI, you know, nice buttons, I guess, I'll give it that. But in this case, I lost my train of thought. Let me get it back. What was I talking about?
Game gutted. They gutted the team.
Yes, they gutted the PvE team.
They tied the PvE team down and just went full Harakiri on them. But like
that was it. The whole PvE team is in fact now deceased.
They played
all gone.
They played Sudoku with the PvE team's insides.
And
it's not nice, like.
And that's sad, because even in the context of Overwatch 2, there was a Halloween event that me and Matt played. It was like the new Halloween event they did that was PvE. It had loads of voice lines. It was fun. It was really fun.
They made game.
Yeah, they made game. And in that little slice of game, you remembered like, oh yeah, Blizzard people are great at Blizzard things.
Oh yeah, there's game. That's right. The game developers can make game.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. Really.
And so why it's sad, and this would be a strange set of characters to do it with, because it would be hard to have all of these together. But no, they can use the other skins, like there's Bolvar, Doomfist, which is a past skin. So there are a bunch of other ones that exist. So what they could have done, and what they would have done in the past, because the World of Warcraft thing is getting less than, oh, it's the summer, football's big in Brazil, Lucio football mode. At least that got to be a mode. World of Warcraft gets less. It gets the standard treatment that Transformers gets. The just, you know, Lysephirim or whatever. Yeah. And to me, that's just a little bit sad. Lyseraphim.
Don't say it wrong, you'll be murdered in the street.
True. K-pop fans are one of the few groups I won't fuck with. And so it's just sad, because in the past we could have had some sort of heroes versus villains thing. Maybe the Lich King is the ultimate big boss. And, I mean, that's older Sylvanas, so maybe you've got Sylvanas, you've got Thrall, one or two Alliance characters, and of course you're using their Overwatch skins, those are what you play in the mode, and maybe they're fighting Lich King, whole bunch of zombies, bit of a custom map, maybe inspired by some point in time in Warcraft. They could put it together, it would be a whole thing, the community would think, oh my god, look at this, and for us as World of Warcraft people, do you know what we would do?
Give them money.
Yeah, we give them money. I can't give you money, Blizzard. And I'm a World of Warcraft player. I mean, I can, but I won't.
You can, and that's the whole point of this. The whole point of this is give loads of money, please.
Give money because recognize.
How much money, by the way? Don't know. It's coins.
$57 to get the mega Uber bundle.
Yeah, but it clearly is less because bundly fucking virtual currency wank. Thank God, is it the Norwegians want rid of that shit?
Do they?
Yeah, the Norwegians are pushing through. They're like, fucking right, get rid of that to hell. God damn. But yeah, like the Halloween Terror was good times. It was good times. And I guess it's a thing where, like, I'm going to immediately turn around. Sounds like you want HOTS events in Overwatch. HOTS is one of the best things Blizzard ever made. It had some product fit issues in the market, but as a product, like as a quality product, it was fucking excellent. Yeah, it's kind of nuts how they've set themselves up in such a place where they cannot make anything good. They cannot, like, I think that's maybe the biggest problem with maybe the game industry at large, but Blizzard specifically for like fans. We get to sit back and we go, if we were in charge, we would do all these fucking things. Because they're obvious, because they're easy, because they're great, that everyone would have the time of their lives.
And in this case, it's
Why
also...
the fuck are they not doing that?
It's also just a template. Like, this is also, like, they've done it before. Literally what I said. They've done it.
Yeah. Why can they not do the thing that players want? That's obvious. And also the developers want.
Yeah.
Where's the third party going, you two are in complete alignment? What's that fucking, didn't you forget to ask someone for consent meme? It's like, I would like good video games. I would also like good video games. And then some fucking C-suite loser in a suit who's just fired 2,500 people turns around and goes, you forgot to ask me. Like, fuck's sake.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
I
sad.
get it, right? And I get that it's mistakes they've made. I get it's mistakes they've consistently made that got them to this point.
And some of those
from the
are
corporate and from development.
Some of those are actually development mistakes. Like the whole with Overwatch, they had this crawl, walk, run thing that would eventually get them to the MMO they dreamed of, which was probably no, it wasn't probably. It objectively was a bad idea because if they just had have taken Overwatch 1, committed resources to that, not thought about how do we slowly turn this into an MMO. Because like you look at the initial vision of Overwatch 2 PvE and it had a lot of replayability and progression and systemic depth, character customization. Like the amount of work that has been thrown away and axed in Overwatch is gargantuan. Even more so on
more work than's gone into it.
Probably by money. Like if you'd actually weight it by money, probably. And that's perhaps why you just get PvP team live ops monetized by events like this, but events where there's no new gameplay. And sorry. There might be some challenges that you can complete to earn Matt. This is exciting.
I love earning. I love earning.
Some battle pass XP. And maybe if you sprays in a weapon charm.
Can we stop making games for neats, please? Because the last thing I fucking want to do is finish work and then go home and go, time for my other work. Like,
Blue archive player.
I do my dailies, and the only reason I do my dailies is because they take 5.5 fucking minutes. If they took 10 minutes, I'd have noped out of that shit months ago. But they don't. They take a few minutes. And then everything else is, there's an event that you would like to do in your own time. You've got 2 weeks to do this event. And it's like an hour long of story and writing where the writers have written things. And there's some visuals and some things happen. Fuck me. Imagine writing and things happening in a live video game. Christ alive. They have to hire writers and hire people who design things.
Nope.
As opposed to get a game made, fucking fire most of the staff, and then go, right, Johnny, you're in charge of balancing. You're in charge of balancing the whole game, Johnny. And it was NEET, N-E-E-T, which is not in education, employment, or training. It's basically someone who has no job. I mostly use it to actually refer to people who are on the dole or people who are students and not actually bothering with anything most of the time, like me. But it sounds like he gets more Irish when he gets worked up. Yes.
That's
I do.
how it
That's
works.
the point.
We all revert to the main.
Yeah. So like,
Our main.
I don't get it. Why can we not have the thing? But it's like, I was talking about Johnny and balancing, right? So Johnny's left the balance, and Johnny hasn't a fucking clue what's going on. He's trying his best. He's working like 60-hour weeks trying to get the game to vaguely function. And
So what? This is America, baby.
yeah, and everyone else is sitting there going, well, there's no one else.
If
doing
he
anything.
doesn't work 60 hours a week, he's got to go outside where he'll trip and shit and fall on top of a needle.
That's true.
The campus is life.
That's true.
I know that's an overstatement. It's okay. I've been there. It's just a bit. Just a bit.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But like, yeah. So that's what happens. Instead of what if we make the thing that's good and we continue to make the good thing and then everyone will be happy, except for the people who aren't making hand over fist for no fucking reason.
See, the problem is
It's really frustrating because that's the only thing I can come up to. I always have to go back to that point because that's the thing that's broadly happening. It seems in the industry. Obviously, there's a billion problems underneath various sofas and mats everywhere that we can't see. And we tend to take the developer side of things because they're the least evil bastards, as we can tell. You know, maybe they're sometimes incompetent, but they're not the ones walking around with, oh yeah, sorry, we'll fire all our staff and then increase our own wages. Like,
Do I think about...
It just drives me insane.
Right, there's a difference. There's a difference here.
there is.
And not a difference. No, there's a thing. There's a thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. What? Blah, 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 blah. I can't believe that this is going to be an I'm not going to do an unironic... I'm engaging founder mode. as they're doing in the Valley right now. No, but
if you say the invisible hand of the market,
whenever the managers come in, the managers march to a different beat. I mean, quite literally as well. But there's a bit of a difference. So if somebody's in, more of a founder, a developer, a sort of a builder mode, and that's how they think, back in the day, that might mean you're making capital investment, which, you're building a new factory, building new tooling, building, whatever you need to build to make sure that your biscuit product is tastier than the other bastard's biscuit product.
Fuck yeah, hobnobs.
Yes, exactly. Whatever it takes to make the hobnob, you do it. You do it. It'll be worth it. In something like this, I mean, it's a little bit different with capital investment. It sort of feels a bit different. So there's that thing where if you invest the money to be able to do a certain category of thing with your product, you may be able to unlock a bit of a step change. So if they were able to do, for all of these events, tie-in game mode, maybe have, in some ways, that could unlock a deeper form of monetization. It could even work better with Overwatch 2's, with Overwatch 2, because as a World of Warcraft player, I could hop straight into Overwatch 2 for free. It's still working the old Overwatch model. If I was a WoW player, didn't own Overwatch, there was a Blizzard event, everyone says it's really fun. Yeah, maybe you buy the game on sale and you play it and they've got some money. But that's basically the thing. Serial underinvestment, managed decline, combined with efficiency. That's kind of what the management class ends up producing.
It feels like that's like
it's Thames water. It's Thames water, but instead of there's shit in the water, it's our video games are really thin and game.
Yeah, I think that's where I can't help but come to. I can't help but come to that conclusion after watching everything for the past 10 or so years of game development happen. It is clearly that, and obviously you see the same in other companies as well, right? It's not just game development. I have a funny feeling that whatever business schools exist, whatever way, wherever these fucking people are bred and dragged up,
the breeding pits of Orthanc.
Yeah, wherever the managerial breeding pits are, however they get infused with culture and brought out and then sent into the world to, basically do the human equivalent of goblin sappers, except they don't fucking die. Just walk in, blow stuff up, and then leave and be like, jobs are good.
It's about understanding. It's about understanding.
It's about me not understanding how the fuck these half-baked, barely alive cretins crawl out of the woodwork.
Because
where do they come and move into places? How are they taught to do all of this wrong?
They're a product of their life story, and they're only operating within the incentives that they're given.
Yeah,
they too are rats in Bobby's maze. It's not Bobby's anymore.
How have we designed the system so badly as a people? How have we
streams escalated?
Yeah, how is whatever fucking human is playing this life sim that they're in? How did they turn around and go, here's a great okay, we'll make a little sub leadership class. What are they? Right, well, they're fucking unbelievable bootlickers, right? That's a good start. They're bootlickers. That's a start. But they're also cruel and evil. But they also think they aren't, because their victims have been bootlickers. So this perfect spot of being victimized, but also being able to cause a lot of victims.
Oh, those
perfect,
are the worst.
Incredible.
Oh, those are the worst.
And now they have a load of authority, but no expertise.
But do you know what they have?
They have a ton of authority and a load of expertise.
Likes on LinkedIn. They have a lot of likes on LinkedIn. Of course, a Microsoft product.
Well, that is obviously, that outranks all the other shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what's that? You're a blithering buffoon. Doesn't matter. You got 10 likes on your post on LinkedIn that you had fucking ChatGPT, right? Oh, dearie me. It's unbelievable. I don't, it is, there is a whole aspect of how businesses are ran, and it seems to be endemic in the game industry, where it just seems to be not for any form of sustainability whatsoever. And it's exactly what leaves the places like this where Blizzard's around going, yeah, here's our World of Warcraft event in Overwatch. And you're like, any of us can see the future that you laid out. Any of us can close our eyes and go, game.
Perhaps
game,
even.
Game one. And there's game two. These are both games. What if they were games together? What if you put some World of Warcraft and Overwatch, and then some Overwatch and a World of Warcraft? What if you did that? What if you did that? What if you, like...
Let them cook.
What if you made video games? What if you made experiences? What if you made things for people to play? But they're too busy making fucking products.
Yeah.
Which is the awkward part of
there's-
like product is supposed to be an experience.
Yeah.
But I feel like that kind of thing is not, it doesn't fucking exist in any lexicon anymore.
So a bit of an easy example.
Yeah.
Take like the theme park experience in Florida. Bring that up because it's not World of Warcraft, does involve two very large businesses, and it's happening outside of our realm, but you see similar principles apply. Universal, whole new park, very expensive, large investment. Velocicoaster, very expensive, large investment. They've just been kind of blasting while also doing things in the Eastern market. Disney, meanwhile, in Florida, 1 trillion% managed decline. They kind of screwed the pooch with the Tiana's Bayou thing. They spent like 5 years cloning the Tron coaster. Not even building it from scratch, cloning it. Whereas Universal are able to get whole new coaster up last time. And it's a pretty... I mean, you think about Disney overall as a business. It's a larger business, but its resources, its size actually hurts it.
Oh yeah, they can't do shit. Like
Disney Plus ends up struggling. Therefore, they're not able to, they're not really able to invest properly in the parks. They start to lose their Imagineers, many of whom go over to Universal. Universal's like, oh, yeah, we're smaller than Disney, but we can defeat them in detail in this particular market. Because apparently I have to bring everything back to Napoleon's campaign in Italy.
I mean, it's very relevant. It's very relevant.
It feels similar to this, where, Universal are over there competing by just doing a better product, investing more in their future, whereas Disney are absolutely making way more money, but they're doing that because they're implementing managed decline. They're slow. And I know their D23 was supposed to be big this year, but for years, managed decline. Your fast pass is no longer just a thing you do. Now it's like $15-20 a pop. So it's, $80 for a family of 4.
It's this, they've hit the part of the product cycle where it's the squeeze.
Yeah, they just went Activision Blizzard mode basically.
They've got everyone on board and now they're jumping on you to get every last bit of fucking blood out of you.
Yeah. And so if you truly wanted Overwatch 2 to be a titan of the next decade, you absolutely would ensure that like PvP is a brilliant experience because that is like the core. But you'd also start doing other things, juice up your community, to bring more people in, expand what the game can be. But that'll never happen because they're afraid of investment. Because like if they do make some new Overwatch event, this Warcraft event, well, they're probably, if they're going to make it, a constraint is there'll be an expectation for the future. And that means they can't just hack it together.
We can't just make it. We can't just make something. Because if we make something, then you'll expect more of that.
Remember what happened with Invasion?
Yeah.
Invasion cost them their bonus. I guess because of how they, wrote it down. I don't know. Yeah. So you can't just do that. No, you're going to have to do that. Invest in tools. And by tools, I mean stuff in your engine to make the workflow better so that you can do more of those events in the future. And that is a real investment that won't pay off immediately. But the problem is
staffing.
And then staffing, because you got rid of the team who could do that. So you cut costs, but you also capped your future. It's one of those things like, I think a lot of the management class are bad at situations with uncapped upside but capped downside. And if you're a large business, I mean, surely your resources mean that you can take capped downsides in order to take shots at things that have a relatively uncapped upside, which surely you'd imagine this kind of thing should be. I mean, given what Overwatch is able to accomplish as a brand.
Well, isn't that ultimately what they're aiming for with all of the live service nonsense?
Well,
across the entire industry.
that's where World of
Wasn't
Warcraft
that
is
what-
uniquely lucky.
Yeah, but isn't that where Sony went?
That's where they wanted.
That's what Jim Ryan turned around and said, spend $20 billion on live services. Quality? What's that? Don't care.
Now Jim's
Make it.
gone,
Make it. And they've got
and many developers are gone too.
yeah, they've got the pieces to pick up after him. That's the other thing, because you're talking there about being afraid of investment. And I think that's where, I think it's like a two-pronged problem, where they're now afraid of investment. Because the first time they invested, they were defeated in detail because they didn't know how to make games.
Yeah.
And they just went, fuck it. I'd throw 100 million people into staffing and fucking see what happens, sure.
And also, Project Titan was led by first generation game developers.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a weird thing to say, but it's purely
Oh,
they didn't have a book.
There's a difference.
I mean, they probably had books, but books that would tell you nothing really about how to run something like World of Warcraft. And so Titan ends up being so big, but so almost creatively led that they're afraid to kill it. And it goes on too long. So yeah, a lot of those mistakes hurt Blizzard, and maybe at the corporate level that entrenched some lessons that now hurt their ability to actually, because those are those painful lessons. The more painful the lesson, the deeper the learning in so many cases. But if your response to the painful lesson is just, never do that again, ever, kill the whole category, in a way, one of the assets you've gained is the lesson. It's the experience, and you now don't get to use that.
So what you're telling me is Activision Blizzard are actually all traumatized? Just like all their players? Sweet.
In some ways.
Sweet. Yeah,
Diablo 3 is actually a great example of that. Reaper of Souls massively rehabbed the game, but, and this is firmly a mistake of Mike Morhaime, because I believe the go-no-go was him, they canned the next Diablo 3 expansion because they just kind of thought, Diablo 3, rep's dead, it's a wash.
Insane.
What they could have had, in the time period that Path of Exile rose...
And ate their lunch.
And ate their lunch.
Dinner and supper and next day's breakfast.
Ate the whole pantry.
Thing, yeah.
Ate their furniture. They could have had D3 expansions. They didn't, because they learned the wrong lessons. And I guess the final point, and it's getting on, so this should probably be the final point for the stream. The final point, though, is with World of Warcraft, we are actually uniquely lucky in almost the entire games industry.
Yeah,
that sounds insane to say, but it's absolutely true. So most live service games have fundamentally different unit economics to World of Warcraft, where you have loads of players who will come play your content, whatever, but to make money, you need to sell skins. WoW obviously makes money selling skins. Yes, absolutely. Why make StarCraft 2 when you got the pony, when you've just got $15 a month from everyone forever? But what it does is it aligns incentives. So they are financially incentivized to maintain subscriptions. Because in how many free-to-play games do you have, at the very least, every single active player spending every single month? You don't. The unit economics of those games do rely on, the top 10% doing most of the buying. Yeah, whereas in World of Warcraft, because the way they talk about, the people who casually buy something, they're minnows. I mean, everyone else is a fucking plankton. And who your game's actually made for is the giant filter feeder. Whereas in World of Warcraft, it's all just fish. It's a weird analogy. I don't know what I'm saying. But the incentive alignment of the World of Warcraft subscription fee is simultaneously what makes WoW an expensive game to play, but also what gives us a fairly good return. And it means that they are incentivized to invest in core content that maintains the health of the subscription product, not just cosmetics that extract money from the captured audience, because they're already doing that with their core product. So in terms of opportunity cost, they know that if they fuck off the core product too much, Shadowlands, hello, and rumbly times in the past, that's actually what loses them the most money. That's the thing. With Overwatch 2, how are you going to make more money from that free-to-play game? You find out how to get people to buy more shit. In World of Warcraft, how do you get more money? You can do the buy more shit thing, but you can also just make the game better, where you'll get loads of box sales, and you'll retain loads of those people earning monthly revenue. Your incentives are aligned.
Yeah, they got kind of grandfathered into an amazing deal.
And almost no MMO achieves that now.
Yeah.
Even the ones that do have subscriptions, like SWTOR, which doesn't get much content at all. Big managed decline game.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing, it's incentives. You were asked, like, you were saying, like, why do the business people do these things? Incentives.
Yeah.
It's all fucking incentives. I mean, yeah. Incentives, important. In everything. That's the lesson.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's how you design incentives if things actually go in some capacity.
Like, what would it look like
complicated, like,
if the game design... I mean, I was going to say, like, what would it look like if the game designers designed the company? Some ways, great. In other ways,
miserable.
It could be a horrible panopticon of hell.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you need a lot of different kinds of people with different jobs and different incentives to keep the whole thing actually in complete alignment. Because you can't have make a good game be the be all end all, because then you don't have a company. Because
you can't define good either.
Because you have a game, and that game is probably far too expensive, and probably not directly aligned with the product fit in the market. And it's like we seem to have very little, and this is where I think the size of game companies and industry is the kind of difficult part, where I think a lot of this stuff felt better in the past because at least, especially in the Warcraft era, like in the like Warcraft 3 days back then, the 2000s, early 2000s and before, the people were like not life or death, literally, but in terms of, you have a job or you don't. If you make this game, that's also the right product for the market. And it was like all of that responsibility was in a smaller team that was much closer together. Whereas now you've got Captain Big Shot.
Oh, Captain Big Shot.
Yeah, Captain Big Shot making a big, massive product call. Or a big call for a product market fit. And he probably doesn't even fucking play video games. He's basing this on a load of analysis and stuff as opposed to any sort of feeling. And that is like relayed down the chain to a billion different people who have a job to do in implementing. And the distance in implementation and how much the implementation of a video game, in the same way implementation from a director on a film, is very close to the wire, very close to the bottom. That you have more chance of a distance between, or like dissonance between the top and the bottom based on the distance on who's making the shot call.
One of the most important things is like distance from the front line.
Yeah.
With key decision makers.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the bigger issues we have in games industry as a whole, is how like there's so little or so big a distance rather to that, so little overlap between where it does work, where it doesn't.
Yeah, I can't say it because it's
that's where you have that's where you have indies kind of running rings around in the product fit market, because you've got independent developers who are sat there going, well, I'm making the game and I'm playing loads of games, I know everything, so I will get a product fit. Obviously only a small percentage of indies actually make anything that's a good like product for the market. But that's ultimately the goal, is make a game that is a viable product. And it seems like getting those two together right is only possible under a particularly good set of circumstances involving people involved and how they're shot calling.
Yeah, it has to. There has to be a vision holder that has a fairly true level of power. There needs to be like a mixture of concentration of power, so there is direction, so that somebody's actually able to make decisions and to lead, and then there needs to be a well-balanced relationship.
Yeah.
And a good two-way power dynamic at play. And I think that's just hard in modern companies, because if it's in a modern company, hierarchy can be a problem. I've at times have heard in the past bad things about Blizzard and hierarchy. I have heard good things more recently with the idea of somebody up totem pole wanting to find something out from somebody way down sort of org chart, which is good. I'll leave it at that. If you go completely different in your Valve, well, it's not Gabe's Utopia. You better hope you're in the right clique, because the social dynamics then will be so much more important there. So a lot of it, it's like, I mean, the whole point, I suppose, it's like the innovation of the Model T wasn't the Model T. It was how the Model T was made and scaled. Like the Ford Model T, that is. I think so too with games. I mean, another good example is like AI implementations. Like there's a lot of AI stuff that I find like pretty interesting. I just see it as it's a language model. I vaguely understand how they work, so I know what things they're good for. So text operations, I know what things they're bad for. I use them appropriately. Human use tool good. But you see so many nightmare stories, Glorbo, of, oh yeah, our company just did this top down. We didn't have buy-in from our staff. People don't understand it. It's badly set up, and the results are shit. And it's like, yeah, of course. Because you just enforce the tool on people. Again, because of what you said. Distance, between decision-making and frontline being too big.
Was it Andrew Wilson was talking about Ferrari and clay knives?
It was John Riccatello. Wrong Electronic Arts CEO, man.
Wrong. Yeah. I thought that was really funny because he was like talking about how like it's...
That reminds me.
He called them
You talk
idiots.
on. I need to publish a video on the news channel.
Okay, yeah. So John Riccatello, or Riccatello, I don't know how to pronounce those names. Riccatello. He was the one who... Does Lure Warcraft have an RSS feed if I sign up? Yes, it does. Ping me on the member Discord about that. But yes, John Riccatello said something to the effect of, if in high-end car manufacturers like Ferrari, they still use like clay knives and, basically old shit fucking asshole idiot tools from the past. Was the framing.
Stupid Italian craftsman.
Yeah.
Buy a... I don't know, insert mass-made car and eat a Domino's pizza.
Yeah, and they said they're the most pure and beautiful geniuses or something along those lines, but they're also the biggest fucking idiots.
Yeah, and you could tell that he was in his... I think what he actually was a bit like was like, oh, you lovable morons, And in the... Almost in a... You know the way people would say, he may have done terrible things, maybe in prison, but sure, he was a lovable rogue.
I don't think that's... I see what you mean. It's a bit different. But it's like, oh yeah, what are you over there, you high-end craftsmen using dumb tools? What if you...
It's like, the look, man, Mr. Riccatello, that ain't it.
Yeah, it's like, dude, if those people are using those tools and achieving results that are lauded globally for being excellent, shut the fuck up. Because unless you know what they're doing specifically, which you don't because you're a C-suite executive for a games company, you don't know shit, stop talking. And stop trying to enforce... What I'm saying is, stop trying to enforce tools on people from that lofty kind of height, from that perspective. Because that's what's going to have... The difference is going to have those kind of... Is going to result in those issues. A lot of the time, I find. It's like, yeah. Train people, yes, but coordinate with them. If you think someone's stupid for using a tool, try to understand why they're using that tool before you try to get them to change it.
I'm really disappointed. I thought you meant train people as in like people who are trains. And then I tuned back into the conversation.
No. I love train people. No. Yeah. There's not really much else to... I think we've kind of ran the gamut on this a little bit.
Yeah, like easiest example of that, the video I'm literally about to publish is the one in Unity, and that's a really good example where John Riccatello, who Matt was just talking about, moved to be CEO of Unity and then Unity went public, and
then immediately went wrong.
Yeah. So Unity was never profitable, but they had promising things like their ads business, because mobile game ads. And so Unity, when it becomes public, sort of develops trying to get more ads, trying to get more enterprise clients doing visualization work, be that film, trying to take some of Epic's pie, architecture, all of those things. And there's expand. And then they do, those mergers where it's like the Boeing and McDonnell Douglas, or is it just Douglas? I forget. But that merger, or whatever the merger was, where basically the hyper cost-cutting sus company, McDonnell Douglas, I think they got acquired. It was basically a merger where the C-suite of, the other side kind of got more control, and that ethos just kind of set in, and the sort of golden age of Boeing just, fell to pieces. Mm-hmm. And over time would become less engineering led.
Wow, unbelievable.
A large surprise!
Yeah, incredible. So I think we've run the gamut on that, which means we'll end up by discussing the super chat we just got, which is, I don't catch you guys live often, Australia, so forgive me being off topic. You're okay. I think we were the ones off topic.
Yeah, that's on us.
Yeah, I think you're putting this on topic, so cheers for that. Do you think there'll be a Void-based class soon, something that would utilize Void's ability to predict movements, maybe? I don't think predicting movement Maybe flavor wise.
Oh yeah, I can totally see that flavor wise.
I don't see anything mechanically really doing that because that's awkward and weird in a game like WoW. I think.
Well, in the same way that Ogvoker is time related, you could.
Yeah. You can figure things out without actually doing too much there. But I definitely imagine there being a heavy void based class, mostly because that's only represented in Shadow Priest.
Yeah, and
Shadow Priest
it's just one flavor,
and it's the hero talent that does it. But that's the problem, where the hero talent turns them into more voidy as opposed to more old gaudy. Because the whole thing of Shadow Priest was that they were, they were the old god Xalatath people, and now Xalatath is notably different. I imagine that they would try to introduce something new to follow that down.
Yeah,
because we are due a new class, obviously. We are due a new class in Midnight or the Last Titan, probably.
And if they were to do it Midnight, it would make the most sense. New class in Midnight, and then a new. Here's the thing with hero specs, though. They come in 3s or 2s and 4s. It depends on. But like for most 3-spec classes, they come in 3s. How do you add another hero talent?
That's an awkward one. I'm sure it's a question will have answers for.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to double the amount you have to go for. That would be very
that
strange.
would be hell. Could you imagine if they did that? Like, oh, great. Every single spec has got like 3 sub-specs.
Yeah, so I wonder, to be honest. I wonder what they can do with that. There's surprisingly not a lot of possibility. Because so much of it is just like, well, do you have a caster? Do you just kind of go, you're a void mage? ? I don't know. Without there being a real new, like they could go Illyria, but she's hunter, and then hunters would go fucking mental.
Xalatath's just
she doesn't do anything.
Trixie corpse,
more or less, yeah. So unless we get to see more of what she does, or we get some new element actually introduced.
Yeah, there could be inspirations from. Well, I guess another thing is. If it's Midnight, maybe it doesn't have to be a Void class. Maybe it doesn't have to be a Light class. But maybe it is a Duality class.
Oh yeah, they'd call it Invoker. Yeah, I know what you mean.
We've done it.
I know what you mean. They would do something that splits like that up.
Yeah, so you could, you could have. You could honestly imagine flipping anything with that. Basically.
Yeah. No, the only problem is people are pointing out it would be very upsetting to have a new class that isn't Tinker. Because everyone wants Tinker. Everyone's wanted Tinker for all time.
No.
They should just make Tinker. Fuck it. Fuck everything else. Make Tinker.
No.
Make Tinker, and then people might want to play Draenei and Goblins more. That'd be sick.
Oh, wait, no. No, it could be sick.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Thematically, I don't give a shit.
Neither do I.
But I'm definitely thinking of like bomb shit, electricity shit, and I don't know. Because woke, their 3rd spec is a healer called Green Energy.
Fantastic.
There we go.
It's called Eco Warrior instead of
Eco Warrior. There.
Eco Warrior.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
There. Now we've shored up every possible viewer we could have, man.
Yeah, no, not everyone wants Tinker. I know not everyone wants Tinker, for fuck's sake. It's called hyperbole, all right?
We are big man for the hyperbole over here.
Yeah, I feel like that would, like, Tinker would probably be perfectly sound then, and it would fit some of the Titanic stuff they're bringing in too. If they wanted to go full insane, they could have Tinker and then give it a Void spec where you make Void aspected Tinkery things. That would be really weird and strange, though. They would need to set precedent for that quite hard.
A challenge, well... See, if you make it melee, then you get automatic differentiation from the priest instantiations of Void and Light. And that could be real helpful.
Yeah.
Because I guess if priest is a immobile, it depends on what one you are, I guess. Disc being more mobile, but right? I've forgotten what's changed. I've stopped maining it. Yeah. My vote is that, but it's a melee class. And you can focus, like Void could naturally focus on like moving and stuff. Think about like the Xalatath Drendon sort of impersonation. You could have some sort of neat little flavor abilities like that.
Fucking void portal over the place, like.
Because I guess whenever we think void right now, that's it. Needs to be hard. And by hard, I mean not squiggly tentacles. Whenever we think void, we just think squiggly tentacles and goopy flesh.
It would need to be cosmic void, right?
Yeah, so if it's cosmic void, then yeah, number one, more cosmic void, but also like look at Bellular when it turns dark. Maybe more crystalline. More of that like energy, or at least some of that, because I think if you're doing it melee, you want crunch. You need crunchiness. Well, no, if you're ranged, you need crunchiness because you just get less game feel by default. Anyway, I want crunchiness. I want crunchy void blizzard and crunchy light.
Well, it can't be a soft squiggly melee. That does make sense. What's your attack? Void hug. All right, sure.
It's not void lash. It's void slap.
Void gentle embrace. Wonderful. Void gentle tickle under the chin. Like, what are we talking here? What sort of attack is that? I don't know.
I think Matt's. I think he's actually writing his fanfic RPG ability set for Xalatath. Interesting. I accept all your suggestions. That's
wonderful. Wonderful. Why not both melee and range? You want another hunter situation? It's fine for shaman, so that's actually okay.
Actually, fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Melee range.
Just make it the Omni class. It does everything. Easy, sort of.
That's it.
Give shamans tank while you're at it, please. I love that. Necromancer. Unholy DK exists, okay? Okay, Unholy DK is there.
Oh,
that's all you've got.
So not the energy. There's just a niche of people who loved Guild Wars 1, like especially Guild Wars 1 Necromancer, and they want a true horde class. They ain't getting it.
Avoid ninja. Yeah, they could remove subtlety and put in ninja.
We could basically just get a way cooler version of stuff we've got.
Yeah, perfect. Damn.
That's the thing. Class skins could do a lot of this, but then
you'd be like, they made hero talents instead.
Yeah.
Oopsies.
Yeah, because you do think of like, what would Locust Walker do in a fight?
Who?
Locust Walker.
Oh,
what do you do in a fight? Build a spec around that. There you go. Anyway,
he would say, "Xalatath, get out of here," and she'd go, "Fine."
True.
Woo.
He does have the power of big words.
He would say, "If you knew my real name, it would tear reality apart," or some shit.
Did he say that?
I don't know.
Sounds like something he'd say.
I think it's like like the angry click dialogue.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I want a class that has only skill shots. You're fucking insane. I get it, but you're playing World of Warcraft.
Nope. No, I'm playing Plunderstorm.
I'm going into PvP.
The two of us are playing Plunderstorm.
Actually, it worked in Plunderstorm, so it would be fine, yeah.
Plunderstorm, you proved everything right.
I'm down for a mid-range class. I can use guns, a Grenadier, Wrangler, or something. Survival Hunter. They've muscled in on your turf. I'm sorry. Explosive shot. Get used to explosive shot and kill shot. Just use a gun and never use your melee abilities.
There you go. You are, in fact, the destroyer of hope.
Gun kata rogue. Jesus Christ. That's a wee bit too mid-2000s. I feel like once everyone forgot about the movie Equilibrium, gun kata kind of fell a bit. Once Guns, the game, was no longer played widely.
I didn't know you were saying gun katana. I thought you were saying
gun kata.
I thought you were saying gun Catholic. And that kind of made me think of Constantine, which is
like
great.
Constantine, or like was it Hitman? Which was the Hitman? Was it Absolution? Was the one who's all the guns that shot him?
The Hitman where all the guns shot him.
All the nuns, I said.
The nuns.
Yeah, that really weird one.
Yeah, the really weird one that like went to be a grindhouse shooter.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, but yeah, gun kata as in gun martial arts will be sick as hell. Except that way wrong era for it. Like straight wrong era for it. Wrong era entirely.
I'm just imagining how like impeccably cringe it would be if done in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be horrible. I do want to play guns. I do want to play guns though.
We did Death Knights. Not Death Knights, sorry. Demon Hunters.
Yeah, but they were WoW edgy. They were edge born in World of Warcraft.
Getting like a big black suit sort of Equilibrium setup might be tricky.
Yeah. But then they could go really back old school and get Keanu into market it.
They could do that with all of their money.
Yeah, I think
We've ran out of juice. We're out of juice.
We're talking absolute shit now.
We've ran out of juice. With that said, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
I think that, yes, the video's published. The Unity video's published. If you want something else and you want to hear the rest of the John Riccatello story that Matt, in a completely unprepared way, perfectly segued us into 5 minutes ago, then you can pick up that segue from back then and go to the news channel. Otherwise, it has been fun hanging out. Enjoy this week, and may your tier 8 bountiful delves go smoother with whatever you got from the vault. There we go. Smooth finish. We will have a WoW video up tomorrow. And more videos to come after that. I mean, actually, quite literally, I just don't know what order they're in, so I can't hype them. But we've got two PTR-related videos.
It depends on how we execute, but we have, I think, in order of content. Today's Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Yes. Then tomorrow we will have something on time walking.
Yes.
Which is full of tips and tricks and things like that for how to do time walking, what you can get from it, etc., etc., etc.
Part of it's busted. Game developers don't want you to know. You know what?
What do they not want them to know?
Well, Matt, game developers, all of them, no game developer. They don't want you to know that time walking badges are war-bound. War account wide.
Warband wide, warband account wide, warband.
They are war transferable to all of your characters. But the thing that gives you 500 for doing your first time walking dungeon on a character is not. So it's per character. That means you can, for every character you've got, just get your 500 coins, funnel them to your main. If you want to buy any mount, any expensive thing, it's been completely trivialized because previously the limiting factor was actually earning 5,000 on any one single character.
Yeah, I have 28,000.
Jesus!
Yeah. And I haven't went through and undeleted all of my characters yet, which probably have at least a few thousand apiece.
Oh yeah, you can undelete one character every hour. And
No? 60 seconds, Michael?
Glad I plan to record that video tomorrow morning.
I
would have made a
left
mistake.
a comment on the Notion script.
Fuck.
Yeah, you can undelete a character every 60 seconds now, at least in EU. So you can just go and undelete your entire history of characters and steal all their Warbound currency, including 10 walking badges, and then do a thing on all of them because it's level 30 plus, and then have good all of the money saved up for the money. 10 walking badges saved up for the extra time walking badge cost things that are coming in with classic time walking in the next patch. Can I go any higher? No. There we go. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, very good.
That's
very
tomorrow.
Good.
Much more to follow. Have a great night, morning, day. Have a great time of day in your location this week.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Yes. And I also didn't even go through talking about the rest of the videos coming out. And also, OBS is literally not responding here. It's still streaming, but I can't see the window.
Oh wow,
so,
yeah.
We may have
cool.
we may have a slightly sharper ending to stream than usual. I'll see how this works. So, don't say anything too untoward, Michael, while I see if this works. Thank you for watching, everyone. Goodbye.